Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
Ghost Rider 2 broke Nicolas Cage's spirit and sent him on a path to reignite the spark he had before breaking into big-budget action blockbusters. So it makes perfect sense that one of the main people responsible for Spirit of Vengeance would help Nick start his late-career renaissance that would eventually lead him back to the mainstream. So join us as we break down Nick's 2017 return to the horror genre, Mom and Dad.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole! Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and being until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
A mysterious illness infects parents around the world, switching their hardwired paternal instincts to protect their children into violent, murderous rage that makes them obsessed with killing their own kids.
Let's see who's joining Nick on this adventure.
Mom and Dad stars horror movie staple and Liz Sherman from the original Hellboy run, Selma Blair, 13 Reasons Why, and the Orville actress Ann Withers, star of the new Child's Play TV series Chucky, Zachary Arthur, horror and action legend Lance Hendrickson, and of course, a man who knows his way around a sawzall, because it saws all, Academy Award-winning actor Nicholas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
Let's dive into the nitty-gritty.
Mom and Dad was released on September 9th, 2017 at TIFF, but actually had its full U.S. release on January 19th, 2018. And then was released in the UK on March 9th, so it's like 3 months apart on all of the releases, which is kind of strange. I don't know if I've ever seen that where it like comes out in the US and UK 3 months apart. Usually it's the UK gets it first, and then we get it after that. I think that the rating system over there is a little bit more lenient than it is here, and it doesn't go through as long of a process. So I always feel like that's why it comes out in the UK first, but I don't know. Could be wrong. Had a budget of $4 million and made $286,313.
Oh, ouch. Wow.
Another one of those. Yeah. I feel like there was this run of Cage movies where it was like they were very limited releases, like probably small theaters, Alamo Draft Houses, art house places,
theaters, yeah.
With a bigger budget because they know that they were going to recoup on streaming and stuff. Especially like 2012, basically from Spirit of Vengeance to Mom and Dad, the two Brian Taylor projects. He had that run of these types of movies where it was like The Trust, where it made like $12 after, you know, it was a pretty decent movie. This was a pretty decent movie too, and $286,000. Yeah, not good. But you know, again, we live in a different era. Things have changed. So 2017 onwards, it's more about streaming than it is about even rentals anymore.
Yeah. I feel like if this movie came out now, it would have been a Netflix or a Hulu or Amazon Prime exclusive.
Yeah, yeah. It's a weird movie to go to the theater to watch, for sure. But like, you know, so like we did The Old Way, and The Old Way feels like a movie that kind of deserves to be in theaters. It wasn't a great movie, but it was shot in a way that lends itself to the big screen. Whereas Mom and Dad feels like it was made by me or something. You know?
It feels like it was made by somebody that made that movie Crank.
Yeah, like it felt like it was shot on like a DSLR, and edited and Final Cut. You know,
I think that's how they shot all those movies.
This, of course, was directed by one of our favorites, Brian Taylor, who previously worked with Neville Dean until I think it was Mark Neville Dean until Spirit of Vengeance. That broke their spirit. It was the end of their co-directing run. Was that movie, and then Brian Taylor went off and did his own thing, and Neville Dean did his own thing. I don't know what exactly happened there. I really kind of want to know that story. Maybe they broke them apart over that whole turkey incident where like half the cast or half the crew just walked off because they offended them. Spirit of Vengeance, we talked about that.
Yeah, last season.
Don't watch it, but watch our episode.
Yeah. Don't watch the movie, just watch our episode. We'll save you from that awful fucking film.
Brian Taylor with Neville Dean, of course, did Crank, which is the most famous movie that was kind of launched their careers. And then, of course, Crank 2, which is a pile of shit. Gamer, that movie with Gerard Butler, yeah.
And Dexter, Michael C. Hall.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. Neville Dean actually just worked with Mel Gibson, kind of being allowed to have a comeback. Like, even though it doesn't feel like in this current era he should be able to have a comeback, but he's back. He worked on this movie called Panama with Mel Gibson, so I guess he's kind of in that same boat of like these kind of direct to streaming movies.
Yeah.
I don't know. And until Crank 3, they're kind of in relative obscurity. Though Brian Taylor is currently working on the 3rd iteration of Hellboy.
Oh God!
Wait, what? Really? They tapped him to do that?
Yeah. They picked the Spirit of Vengeance guy to do Hellboy.
They just want that franchise to fucking die.
They do. I don't know what they're doing, but like that last one, like I didn't watch it, but I didn't hear great things about it. And like you had kind of everything going your way and you still fucked it up somehow.
Yeah.
Like if you're not going to get Ron Perlman, David Harbour's great.
Yeah,
he was Hellboy.
He's great.
And that movie was okay, but there was definitely a lot of missed opportunities with it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell they were doing with it toward the end.
And like you're just gonna, I mean, it must be something where it's like they are gonna lose the rights if they don't make another one.
They had to have spent a decent amount of money on it and they're trying to recoup it, you know, or they're gonna lose the rights. Or they'd see the potential, back to the Guillermo del Toro days.
Yeah, maybe.
Giving it to the Crank guy? One of the Crank guys?
Or like, he did a great job ruining the Ghost Rider franchise, so
that's going to be
sure he runs his shit into the ground.
I mean, it really must be like, oh, if they don't make a movie, they lose the rights. So might as well make a cheap-ass movie to keep the rights, and maybe at some point someone will make a good movie again.
Yeah,
about
but
Hellboy.
you ruin your own IP that way. Like, nobody's going to be lining up to see Hellboy later on,
right?
Because
unless you're
like,
Sony and you make a break with Marvel and figure it out with Spider-Man to work with an actual good studio. Just cranking out movies to keep a license doesn't really end up.
I see what you did there.
In your favor.
Speaking of comic book adaptations, Brian Taylor also co-wrote the Jonah Hex movie. So he wrote this, Mom and Dad, which is actually shocking because we've seen some of his writing before. And, this movie does have a lot of the hallmarks of the things that sucked about those movies, but I feel like it's pretty well structured and pretty well put together and pretty coherent, streamlined storyline that is easy to follow and doesn't just, just go watch our Spirit of Vengeance. It just broke us completely. Let you know everything you need to know about Brian Taylor's filmmaking. up until 2012, apparently. In the 5 years in between, he was like, oh shit, I actually have to work at this a little bit.
Yeah. He's like, oh, they're not just giving me money anymore.
Yeah.
I gotta put
I
some
can't
thought
just
into
shock
this.
a guy's nuts and
Yeah, I
make $1
can't
million
just bank off
anymore.
Jason Statham doing cool stuff.
Maynard won't return my calls.
This was shot by Daniel Pearl, who it kind of makes sense, the look and feel of this movie, because he was the guy who made the original 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
And there's a lot of that kind of hallmarks in this movie. Color grade, the graininess.
Yeah, the film grain.
Moments where you just feel sick while you're watching it just because of the way it's shot and put together. Yeah, that's a style that's been emulated a lot because I remember watching American Movies, great documentary if you haven't seen it. And he talked about how Texas Chainsaw Massacre almost felt like one of those road traffic safety videos where it was like shot at a higher frame rate and was just made you sick and made you want to throw up.
Yeah.
He also did the 2003 reboot with Arlie Ermy and a bunch of other people. I don't know who else was in that movie, but it was pretty decent. I thought it was pretty decent, the reboot.
Was that the Jessica Biel one?
I don't know. I don't
think
remember anybody else.
I think she was in it, yeah.
I remember Arlie Ermy was in it, and that's about it. That's all I really remember. I think he's in the second one as well, which he did not shoot the second one. He only shot the original and the reboot. He also shot Amazon Women on the Moon. If you haven't seen that, it's kind of like Kentucky Fried Movie, where it's just like a bunch of short pieces put together, and it's actually hilarious. It has one of the greatest openings ever with Arsenio Hall getting a phone call over and over and over again for some chick named Thelma. Anyways, you should watch it if you haven't seen it. It's a solid. It's in the same vein as like The Naked Gun and those types of movies, the Zucker brothers and stuff. Also shot Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which was nominated for Worst Sequel or Prequel by the Golden Raspberry Awards. Shot the Friday the 13th, 2009 reboot, which I heard nothing but terrible things about, and a made-for-TV Dean Koontz written version of Frankenstein. I can't think of much worse. Maybe like R.L. Stein doing a Frankenstein movie.
Hey, leave R.L. Stein alone.
Yeah.
Fucking Dean Koontz.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
It's the Walmart Stephen King.
Right. To air that thing on Hallmark for Halloween.
It's on USA.
Even worse.
I kind of want to see it just because I never heard anything about it. It's a Frankenstein movie written by Dean Koontz and shot by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy. It was edited by Rose Core, who has edited, among other things, Mom and Dad.
That's it?
That's the only thing I recognized on there. She was in the editorial department, so like assistant editor on Sorority Row, Step Up 3D.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's the best one. But she won a sports Emmy for a spinal injury documentary called Any One of Us, which was pretty well received. Also co-edited by Fernando Villena, who edited Crank 2, Gamer, Jonah Hex. So he worked with Neville Dean and Taylor, but then also edited the music video for Alice in Chains' Check My Brain, which is one of the best new Alice in Chains songs. If you can get over the whole Lynn Staley thing and you could just move on to the new singer, that's a pretty fucking great song. It took me a minute too, all right? It took me a minute.
It's okay. It's what Lane would have wanted.
Yeah. No, he probably wouldn't.
No, he wouldn't. He wanted them to never, ever sing.
Yeah.
or
But-
produce music again without him.
There's actually some great songs on those new Alice in Chains albums.
Yeah.
You still got what's his name? The other guy.
Lane Staley, or the new guy.
No, the
Jerry
other.
Cantrell?
You say Jack Gandalf?
Jerry Cantrell.
Yes, Jerry
Yeah,
Cantrell.
Cantrell. Oh,
Yeah. Jerry Cantrell's voice still feels Alice in Chains, and when you put them together with the new guy, it still feels like old Alice in Chains. So there's some killer tracks on those new albums. Anyways, speaking of music, the music was done by a guy named Mr. Bill.
Wait, that dude from the
HBO
commercials?
skit.
As a
Yeah,
real
the old-
person.
Was it HBO or no? It wasn't.
No, it was on SNL.
SNL. That's it. Yeah.
Oh no, Mr. Bill.
I loved those when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So Mr. Bill is a real person, not Brian Taylor's pseudonym, which I thought that's what it was going to be. He's an Australian electronic musician, has a ton of credits, but they're mostly all self-released. I think he's one of those SoundCloud guys who just puts out tons of music on his own. We'll talk about it throughout, but holy shit, man. Some of the music really takes you out of the moment. Mr. Bill. Oh no. Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie a 75%. 6 out of 10 on 139 reviews, so almost overwhelmingly favorable reviews. But the audience gave it a 40%. So from a critical standpoint, they loved it, but from a just enjoyability standpoint, 40%. And I wonder if maybe some of that is more cagey moments throughout the movie. It is very over the top in moments, particularly from Cage. But honestly, that's part of the reason I enjoyed it.
Same.
was how fucking ridiculous his role was. I mean, this is, I think if you take this at face value and you think of it as a horror movie, it's not as enjoyable as if you think of it as a black comedy, because it's actually a really funny movie and really well done. I'm sorry, I hate to give Brian Taylor credit, but actually really enjoyed this movie. Metacritic score was a 59%, which I feel like is the highest we've had in a long time. And then IMDb is 5.5 out of 10. So middle of the road is kind of what the audience felt about this movie in general. 40% feels low. 75% might be giving it too much.
Feels high.
But yeah. And then no cinema score whatsoever. It's like, this entire season has had no cinema score, feels like.
Yeah.
We've had like 3, I think.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
This film featured cameos from Grant Morrison and Bokeem Woodbine, which are just kind of random.
I saw that too.
When Woodbine shows up, you're like, wait a minute, why'd they get like
I was like,
a
hey, that guy
real
looks
person?
familiar. Yeah. Oh my God, it is him. Why?
Morrison was the writer of Happy, which is a show that Brian Taylor has been working on. Well, did work on. I think they did a season or 2 of it, which was adapted for television by Brian Taylor. Also featured Joseph D. Reitman as a school teacher in the beginning of the film, which Nigel called like fat Jonathan Davis or whatever.
Yeah, I'll do it in my breakdown.
He also played a bad Santa Claus in that Happy show, which I don't feel the need to ever watch that. But Brian Taylor TV show, like, oh yeah, let's just drag out the Brian Taylor. Let's watch 20 hours of Brian Taylor created stuff. Nicolas Cage said, shockingly, this is his favorite movie that he had made in 10 years. So 2017, let's think about the notable films that he made during that 10-year period. So we got Book of Secrets, not a great movie. Bangkok Dangerous, not a great movie. Bad Lieutenant, Protocol New Orleans, which is okay. It's an okay movie. Season of the Witch. Yeah. Joe, though, and The Trust. Joe and The Trust were both in that period. So, like, Cage had said that Joe was the closest to him in real life at that point, and he liked this movie better than that. Maybe it's just because this was funner.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine.
Yeah. I think he had more fun doing this role.
Joe's not a feel-good character doing it.
There's The Trust.
Yeah.
Those are two movies that are not feel-good movies.
The Trust is fun.
I feel like he had fun with The Trust.
The Trust is fun.
Yeah.
He also made some movies I don't understand how he can say are not as good as this movie, such as Dying of the Light, Dog Eat Dog, Arsenal, Stolen. I mean, these are fucking masterpieces, dude.
How did he not have more fun on Dog Eat Dog than this one, dude?
Yeah, he's just making out with that poor woman against her will. Yeah. Ugh. I mean, I get it. All right, I get it. But Bad Lieutenant should have been a fun movie for him, and you know, The Trust and Joe. Those are three pretty decent movies in that period of time.
I think I could see for him his argument would be, well, those characters were dark characters.
Yeah.
So mentally,
and it was probably
a character who
that
kills
mindset.
His own children.
Yeah, but it was probably still a lot of fun to make this movie.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He tries to kill them.
Horror movies are probably pretty fun.
Spoilers, yeah.
It must have been a lot of fun for him to do this role. He seemed like he was having a great time, maybe to the detriment of the film a little bit, but he really seemed like he was having a blast.
Maybe to the detriment of the film.
Tara Brady of the Irish Times gave this movie a 4 out of 5 stars, writing, "Think back on the most unhinged screen moments of Cage's career. Multiply all these scenes together and you still can't match the awesome lunacy of Nick Cage killing a pool table in the delightfully delirious Mom and Dad."
I feel like she hasn't seen as many Cage movies as we have.
She probably hasn't quite had the sample size that we've had, but
yeah.
This movie definitely has some of my favorite Cagey moments, especially for season 3 so far. Wow, there's some masterful Cage performances in this. John Waters also named this film among his top 10 favorites released in 2018.
Interesting.
Which that tracks.
Yeah. It's also a very specific list.
Yes, John Waters' top 10.
Top 10 favorites from 2018.
Yeah. It shares a title with a 1945 film called Mom and Dad that Waters has previously cited as having a huge impact on the aesthetics and on his career trajectory. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's the fact that it's gross and, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe he expected the little kid to eat that dead animal, and it's like, oh, this would be awesome.
That's what he would have done.
That's what he would have done.
Yeah. It was his movie.
Scoop up some shit and eat it.
It's time for the main event. Here comes the breakdown. Act 1, the setup.
Our film starts with some static on screen, which is then replaced by static on a radio in a suburban mom's minivan, where we see that she's left her kid in a car directly in the middle of some train tracks while some happy 70s music plays. But not in like a James Gunn style where it's actually good.
I mean, all of the tracks have something to do with like parental love or
they juxtapose it over
the
horrible.
But at the same time, it's like this doesn't fit at all. Like
not at all.
It must have been love when she's about to crush the baby. All right. I get what you're trying to do, but it's over now.
We cut to a title sequence. I think it helped me with it because it just made it more goofy and over the top and not traumatizing.
Not as real as it could be. I was worried about that scene specifically for you, just because it's a little. It's a jarring scene when you're about to have a baby, like, and you just had a baby not long ago. But I'm glad we're getting through it.
We cut to a title sequence straight out of a 70s grindhouse movie where we see our principal stars in scenes that will come later on in the film, who are all freeze framed one by one with color filters accompanied by an obscene amount of film grain and some tits. Yeah, a little flash forward of the tits in that one.
Yeah. See those tits a bunch in this movie.
Yeah, you do.
Same set. They're the only ones in the movie, so.
Same set. You know, so there's only two. We can only count two, but it's the same.
Yeah.
See those warlocks multiple times.
What? Those warlocks?
Breaking super bad.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Let's go get a glance at those warlocks.
It kind of fits for Brent just remembering that over and over again because that was the highlight of his life.
His highlights.
Just getting his face slapped on either side by titties. I mean, that would be a highlight for me. I don't know. Doing burnouts. Yeah. Can't see anything. I can't imagine how he totaled the car.
We cut to suburban hell, or as it's now known these days, any millennial or zoomer's wet dream, since, as we've said before, a big house in the burbs with a well-manicured lawn is a dream many of us will never, ever be able to attain. We see Carly, the daughter of our titular mom and dad, on the phone with a guy named Damon. While riding a bike to school, Damon complains that he has to take the PSATs, and Carly has been taking up all his time with her PUSSY before her little brother barges in and tosses a pair of, I'm guessing, filthy tighty-whities at her. She throws a Tonka truck at him down the stairs, which knocks a photo off the wall and becomes kind of a main character in the movie itself. We're suddenly reminded that this film was directed by one of the Crank guys. The camera weirdly zooms in on the photo of their happy family on the floor in a jittery, sped-up shot complete with a weird sound effect. So, yeah, that happened. In case you needed a reminder, the guy who directed this movie also directed Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. I don't think we need to say anymore. We see Carly guiltily stare at her mom's purse from a hallway while Damon arrives at school to a glitchy song that seems to have taken inspiration from the sound a fart makes in a bathtub. Which I was wondering about the timeline of this guy going to do PSATs. Like, I don't know. Felt like when I did them, they were on a Saturday, not in the middle of a school day. And also, why is he showing up so much earlier than she shows up to go to school? Because like she's just chilling at home, and he's already showing up to do it.
Maybe he's got a zero period or something. And
maybe, yeah. We see Selma Blair, a.k.a. Mom, a.k.a. Kendall, drinking from a cup of coffee that says, "Totes a morning person," which perfectly tracks with the sense of humor the Crank guys seem to have. You know, it's the kind of cup every Gen X mom would have.
Suburban mom cup, I don't know.
It felt more like a millennial sense of humor, but
yeah,
that type of thing. They also have like a "but first coffee" sign on the wall in their kitchen too. That's stupid.
They have all those cheesy family sayings on the wall too.
Yeah,
live, love, laugh.
She drinks coffee like it's either the greatest cup of coffee she's ever had, or coffee is the only thing keeping her sane, or both, which I think we can all relate. She hears a news story in the background playing on a portable DVD player for some reason, describing the opening scene of the mom leaving her kid on the train tracks while a housekeeper named Sun Yi and her daughter Lisa prepare breakfast for the family. A portable DVD player,
on portable DVD players,
showing the news, like really. Like, even in Birdemic, they could spring for a TV to be awkwardly placed in the kitchen so the main character could watch the news deliver exposition. Remember that? You just have it like sitting on the counter in the kitchen, taking up a bunch of space. So
Yeah.
he can watch while he's eating on his table.
Yeah. Even though half of it was taken from Shutterstock or whatever. Still has the
portable
watermarks
DVD
on it. Yeah, a portable DVD player seems really lazy. But I'm no electronics expert. Maybe they had portable DVD players at that time that you could plug a coax into and watch TV.
I don't think anything was plugged
sadly,
into
I
it.
think they do. Or they
Really?
did. I want to say I remember selling them in home theater.
Just why is this family? This family can afford more than a 9-inch portable DVD player to have a
yeah.
TV in their kitchen.
He spent all his money on that damn pool table.
It only makes
And the house
$45,000 a year now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, remember?
I forgot about that.
He went
Oh
from
my
making
God.
140 to just 40,000.
Yeah. How? First of all, how did he make $145,000? I don't know.
It was a bad year, dude. The Catalina wine mixer didn't go off as planned.
It's just like rich people not knowing how money works.
Yeah.
trying to write for middle class
yeah.
Americans.
Or he's pulling from his actual life experience to go spirit of vengeance.
Yeah.
Just makes me wonder, like, so he's presumably talking about before he had kids and before he got married, he was making $145,000. So what in my mind, the way that works is that they used to live in the city and now they live in the burbs, and he had to take a different job in order for them to have their family life. So maybe he was working with the Family Man in New York, making tons of money.
Now he's
Now
selling
he's out in
tires.
the Jersey burbs.
Selling tires for his father-in-law.
Yeah, I figured it was like he worked some sales job and was making a ton of money, and then he got older and had to settle down, and now he'd work some desk job somewhere, middle management.
Somewhere close enough to where you can commute to from. This was all filmed in Kentucky. These are suburbs somewhere in Kentucky, which I'm not sure where. But it was. I think it was meant to be ambiguous because, like, the disease, whatever happens that causes everybody to freak out, is ambiguous. Where they are could be anywhere in suburbia.
Yeah,
and it's of course it's like a commentary on suburban adult life with kids.
So the greatest actor of all time lets his son know to always do what his mom says, and then reenacts the kid getting run over by a train with a toy monster truck. So it's safe to say he's already a great dad at this point. Then he dumps ketchup all over a Lego guy and shows his 9-year-old son how much blood there will be, and then he giggles his ass off, and Kendall says, "That's not funny." That's what I would do.
Just listen to your mom. Or
And
else
then
she'll
about the
fucking
baking
kill
joke.
you.
Carly asks if she can go out with Damon that night, and Dad, aka Brent, says, "Sweetheart, you're not seeing that boy." And she says, I know why you don't want me seeing him. It's probably worth pointing out at this point that Damon is African American. But thankfully, Brent says the reason he doesn't want her seeing him is because Damon is a junior and Carly's a sophomore. Whew, I thought we were in trouble there for a minute.
I liked that kind of turn.
Yeah.
Like,
They do that with Brent the whole time. It's all ambiguous vote. Give him the benefit of the doubt or not,
yeah.
depending on how you want to look at it.
He's just got a big
terrible.
Nazi flag over that pool table downstairs.
It's not a man cave.
You can keep that up, but get rid of the pool table. It's ridiculous.
Kendall tells her daughter that her grandparents are coming over for dinner, so she can't go out, and Carly throws a bitch fit about having to listen to her mom and grandma arguing and her grandpa recounting stories all night about the war, while Brent and his son Josh giggle like schoolgirls. Kendall apologizes to the housekeeper about Carly saying the word Charlie in reference to Vietnamese people, and the housekeeper says, "Don't worry, I'm Chinese. Chinese is not the Charlie." I'm not doing it in a Chinese accent, but she has a super stereotypical Chinese accent.
Yeah, she does.
So maybe we spoke too soon. Anyway, Kendall asks, "Was that racist?" To which Brent responds, "I'm going to say yes. Hell yes." What was that reference from?
Spirit
Rider?
Vengeance.
That's right. Yeah. Then Carly says she's on the rag anyway, and Kendall says hashtag inappropriate talk. So Brian Taylor's writing has really improved since sorry jackass, but I'm dead. It's just how every teenage girl talks. And her mom.
Hashtag inappropriate talk.
Brent tells the housekeeper never to have kids, and her daughter Lisa sticks her tongue out at him, prompting him to say for some reason. I guess it's a more realistic line than boo-hoo! The subject switches to Kendall's sister Jeannie being due any day now, and Carly bitches some more about not being able to go hang out with Damon. We cut to Kendall and Carly in the car on the way to school, where Carly's Instagram feed is superimposed over her mom's face for the whole drive for some reason. We see little text bubbles pop up on screen to let us know what's happening in the conversation she's having on her phone, which turns out to be about stealing money from her mom's purse while Kendall tries to get her daughter to communicate with her. Kendall says she wants to trust her as we see Carly steal $80 from her mom in a flashback. They have a typical teenage daughter-mom conversation where Carly makes fun of her mom and is generally a little asshole the whole drive, while her mom desperately tries to break through the hormone deflector shield we all have as teenagers. Kendall says, you're part of a family, and that means you love each other, even if you can't stand each other, and then you give a shit even when you don't really give a shit. She laments that she and her daughter used to be best friends, and Carly says she has other friends now, and it's not her fault her mom has no life. Kendall is obviously devastated after Carly says whatever and probably wishes she could kill her daughter with a hammer. Back at the house, we see Josh and his dad playing hide and go seek, which ends by Brent wrestle slamming his son onto the couch before tickling him for a bit. He says goodbye to Sun Yi and her daughter, and Sun Yi says she'll leave dinner in the fridge, prompting him to say, fuck you, under his breath before saying, okay, that's great, out loud. I don't know why he hates her so much.
That was one of my Coppola questions. Is like, does he just? I wish I could just make my own food, or I don't know. Like, you don't have to eat it, dude.
I think it's because he doesn't want to be paying for her to be cleaning the house and cooking for them, since his wife
and leaving him leftovers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That makes sense. Fuck you.
Josh playfully tosses a toy soccer ball at his dad's head, prompting one of the cagiest reaction shots of Nicolas Cage's career. He stares at Josh for a super long beat, like he wants to kill him, before suddenly and goofily smiling while throwing his head back, all while Josh looks terrified. And we hear a high-pitched noise foreshadowing what's to come.
I love that. That's like from just maniacal stare to like, it's so ridiculous, man. Which, like,
again, it's that ambiguous. Like, does this dad really want to kill his kids?
Yeah,
or is he just joking around?
That was one of the reviews I read. Was like, he seems crazy from the jump. So
yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I think it's also ambiguous of like, how are people being affected at this point? Like, is he already starting to be affected? And this is a sign of that, because this all takes place in one day. So it could be like the switch started early, but it hadn't gotten bad yet. So everything we see Cage do in this is maybe potentially influenced by that event. Whatever that is, the zombie event that's not zombies. But
we know he's got anger issues before all this happened.
That's true.
And his kid's scared of him. So.
I don't know if the kids heard him smash on that pool table up.
Well, they have a good chuckle, and Brent says, 10. It's not a guarantee for you. I don't get that. Like, I didn't get that line.
The kid's 9.
Oh, so he's saying turning 10 is no guarantee.
10? It's not a guarantee for you.
Got it. He won't make it to 10 because he wants to kill him.
Also foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Also
and he makes his way to his car for work. He stops and notices all the houses in the neighborhood ominously look empty with no one in their yards or out in the street. Said, Typical suburban busybody, just paying attention to what everybody else is doing. Notices that no one else is around.
I remember the remake of Dawn of the Dead did this really well, where it was like everything was empty in suburbia, and then suddenly it was just fucking chaos when she wakes up and there's a zombie kid in her room.
Yeah, I mean, this whole movie feels, the premise is like a zombie apocalypse, but it's parents attacking their kids, so they have that kind of setup where everything just seems a little off throughout the whole first act.
It's almost like a zombie Maximum Overdrive.
He stares at his suburban dad car and suddenly gets a flashback to doing burnouts in a Trans Am or something while a girl slaps her tits in his face. By the way, the role of young Nicolas Cage is instead played by young Anthony Kiedis. I will say this teenage version of Brent looked the most Nicolas Cage of any of the teenage versions of Nicolas Cage we've seen in these movies.
Yeah, definitely. They never find anybody who looks anything like Nick Cage usually. Like,
it was pretty good. I think the mustache helped.
Yeah.
I look like a young Eddie.
Yeah, he did. We cut to the school iCarly and Damon go to, which is accompanied by 15 or so seconds of the single worst song I've heard in my entire life.
Look a nigga in his eye and tell him get to running. All my niggas coming.
Some vapid dumb shit looking girl headbangs to it before a teacher takes her headphones and phone from her, listens to a few seconds of that god-awful song and says, "You kids need to go to church or listen to Freak on a Leash more often." Like the guy looks like Jonathan Davis is all I'm saying. He looks like Jonathan Davis if he had a normal weird guy ponytail instead of dreadlocks. Quick fact, we mentioned before, this actor's name is actually Joseph Reitman. What we didn't mention is that he was once married to Shannon Elizabeth somehow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
How?
Yeah. Didn't last long, it seems, but yeah. And this was like 2002 Shannon Elizabeth.
Yeah, this is like early in her career.
Did he not look like Jonathan Davis?
No, he's always looked like that.
Yeah. Is that Pete Davidson syndrome?
He must just be really charming.
Right. Teacher uses the girl's phone to text Carly to bring her phone to the front of the class since he can see her texting Damon, which is some major invasion of privacy going on. Like, goes into her contacts and finds Carly and texts her. She takes her phone to the teacher while some kid with a dumb haircut coughs "owned" at Carly. So this movie is all about kids and adults being out of touch with one another, while most of the dialogue for the kids really feels like it was written by a dad who is desperately trying to stay hip to his teenage daughter. It's all meta.
That's what the kids are saying, right? Call her a penis. Yeah.
Call her a penis.
That's how they say it. Back at home, we see Sun Yi have some sort of mental breakdown while tenderizing some meat. We see Static playing on the portable DVD player they were all watching TV on earlier, while Sun Yi stares down at her daughter. Everything has static in this, despite the fact that over-the-air digital happened in 2009, which was almost 10 years before this movie came out, and yet screenwriters still have to rely on things like static and news reports delivering exposition and cell phones not existing and all this other stuff that makes it so that the plot in movies can happen, and it really pissed me off.
Yeah. Also, the fucking, like, heart monitor has static on it.
Like, static is, I mean, I guess you could say, I mean, static is caused by analog antennas picking up radiation and displaying static, which none of these devices have analog antennas in them anymore. But I guess you could say, since they never explain what's actually causing it, there's some other signal that's being injected into the technology of all these things somehow and displaying static that's not actual static. Who knows?
That was how I got over
the
the willful suspension of disbelief of like, okay, well, it could be like some alien or a comet
like Killer
or
Out of
something.
Space.
Yeah, so something is interrupting the signal and like intentionally beaming down this whatever this interference is, and it's taking over all these different static things.
Yeah.
The thing that was confusing though is why does it go in like stages where it's like, why wouldn't it happen to every electronic piece in that town all at the same time, rather than there's like on the radio in the morning and then on the portable DVD player later and then at the hospital later after that. It's like a couple of hours in between each one. Or maybe it's something that's triggered by the person who it's affecting.
Figured out how reliant they are on the technology that they're being affected by. Maybe. We see a creepy ass flashback of Josh playing in the yard. He spots a group of crows picking at something near death, so he decides to rescue it. He puts the thing, which I think are supposed to be a kitten based on the subtitles, into a shoebox and stashes it in his dad's old Trans Am in the garage for some reason, while we hear the creature in the box mewling away. Yeah, it said like mewing or meowing or something in the subtitles. They never show it because
I don't know why that was left ambiguous. Yeah, they couldn't get a real puppet, and they had to do something digital the whole time.
You get Lance Henriksen to show up, but you can't get a kitten from a pet store. We see him feed the creature cereal over the next few days, but the creature seems to die since cats can't eat cereal. And we hear flies buzzing the next time he comes to feed it. As Josh eyes the dead creature, his dad opens the garage, sees his kid run from his Trans Am, and spots the dead animal. Brent freaks out and screams about not being able to get the smell out, while Kendall tells him it's a perfect excuse for Brent to get rid of the last remaining piece of his youth.
That car is really used as a device to explain lost youth.
Yeah. They could have just shown the snakeskin jacket he has hanging in the closet. Still, maybe. Back from when he was wild at heart. I like to imagine this was Sailor Ripley in this movie.
Oh my God. What a sad... what a sad ending to Sailor
Can you just
Ripley's
imagine
story.
him listening to Power Mad while he's setting the pool table up instead of whatever that was, Misfits or whatever thrash metal
I used
that
to
was?
be with Lula. Now I'm with Selma Blair.
We cut back to the present where Josh hears a loud noise accompanied by Lisa screaming and then repeated slams from the tenderizer Sun Yi had earlier. I didn't actually know that's what was going on. I was super confused by that cut transition.
There's a shadow on the wall behind him of the you can see the hammer in her hand.
Yeah. I thought it was like maybe a flash forward because I think they do that a couple of times in this where they flash forward to some scene that either does or doesn't happen. Like there's one part at the end I noticed where they flash forward to the two kids being all bloody in the basement or something, and then that never actually happens in the movie. So I don't know. Yeah, it happens near the end.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
I don't know. First time editor, I guess. It was weird. I think it's when they're in. I think it's when they have Kendall locked in the closet, and then there's like a bunch of shit happening, and there's a bunch of stuff that flashes on the screen, and it shows like the two kids getting murdered or something, and then flashes back like they're imagining that's what's going to happen to them. It's hard to tell. I don't know. Maybe they filmed it, they didn't know where to put it in, so they just threw it in.
That whole scene was chaotic. So yeah, I believe I believe that happened.
Yeah.
We see Kendall at a yoga dance studio, which seems to have a real dust problem. She and a big group of suburban
dust
moms
everywhere. Dude. It doesn't seem hygienic for a dance studio. I mean, I guess it's some, strip mall suburban dance studio of some sort.
Yeah. But it's like, did they intentionally do that to film the scene, or were they just like renting out some old abandoned strip mall studio that just hadn't been cleaned in years?
I could see Brian Taylor being like, oh, that looks cool.
Yeah.
Put that in there.
Discount fog machine. Just asbestos dust and crap.
That's asbestos.
Kentucky fog machine.
Great. Kentucky fogs. Asbestos and coal dust.
She and a big group of suburban moms booty dance while the instructor, I guess, ogles their asses. At coffee, Kendall and a bitch friend should talk about how tired they are from dancing and contemplate why they're trying so desperately hard to stay hot and hold on to their youth. So I'm sensing a theme here. It's pretty subtle, but it's there if you pay attention. Kendall's friend Jenna asks about her sister as Kendall worriedly looks for updates on her phone since Jeannie could have her baby at any second. Jeannie says she saw her daughter naked in front of a mirror and started to hate her a little since all she could think was, one day those tits are going to drop off, you little whore. And Kendall asks if that's wrong. Lovely. And asks Kendall if that's wrong. Which is lovely, lovely. That's how all moms talk about their daughters.
Yeah. You know, it's how you know that they love you.
Kendall notices the money she had in her wallet is missing, and Jenna says her daughter steals from her all the time since she's a little bitch. So I wonder where she gets that from. Back at school, the teacher tells the class about the concept of planned obsolescence, or products with a predetermined limited lifespan. Products that are built to die, to become unfashionable in a certain amount of time. Gee, I wonder what he could be referring to as it relates to this movie. He's credited as like homeroom teacher, but at the time I was like, what the fuck class is this? Like, he's just preaching about planned obsolescence and then tells him to open book to chapter 18 to talk about whatever. And it's just some nondescript high school class. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. My school never had homeroom, so I don't really know what goes on in there.
No, it didn't have a homeroom. And like, how long is the timeline in this thing? It only feels like maybe it's a couple hours until she leaves the school and everything goes haywire.
Yeah, because she leaves from that first class, which if it's homeroom, I think it's the first class of the day you show up to, maybe the last class as well. But I thought the concept of homeroom was just that stays the same all year so they can do announcements and stuff.
I don't remember ever having a homeroom at any point.
Some schools do it. The closest I had was in 7th grade. We had it, but it was always just our first period class. Whatever that was your homeroom. So like if there was announcements that needed to be made or teacher needed to hand out something that the school was doing administratively, it was done in the first like 10 minutes of whatever your first period class was.
Okay.
But some schools do homeroom, and I think it's like your first and last class of the day, and it's kind of the same concept. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what actually gets taught there. Right.
They also have uniforms at this school, so
yeah, it's like a private school,
different kind of school, private school, Catholic school,
could be. Yeah. I mean, they sort of have uniforms. All the girls wear skirts, but then they can wear whatever the hell else they want. It seems like.
I think that was just so all the girls could be in skirts.
Yeah.
Seems like a Brian Taylor thing to do.
There is like one upskirt shot as the dad's murdering his daughter in the football field that I was like, that's a little gratuitous.
I think it also tied back into the youth thing of like, you know, this is kids, you know, kids wear these types of uniforms to school and shit. I think that was kind of, and also this weird through line of like talking about the sexual stuff that's happening with these teenagers and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what the theme was there, but I do think it was on purpose and intentional to kind of show that, I don't know, innocence, but sexual. Yeah. Whatever I'm trying to say.
The teacher goes on to say, if you don't get rid of the old, you might never embrace the new, while referring to an iPhone, but we all know what he's actually talking about. Portable DVD players, am I right? The wave of the future. He gets a call on a classroom phone and sends a student to the office. And then he gets another call seconds later and seems disturbed while we see several cop cars arrive at the school. He sends another kid to the office while Carly and the other kids in class start to question what's going on. And I'm guessing they start to put on their bulletproof vests that are mandated in Kentucky. We cut to Damon taking his PSATs, and we see a bunch of parents anxiously waiting for their kids to finish the test outside while they stare blankly through the window with angry looks on their faces, like zombies. Mm-hmm. We see Carly and that doofus who was listening to music in class in the bathroom where the girl, Riley, says her mom is such a penis. Ha! Kids today. Let's be honest, she'd actually be saying stuff like, no cap, my mom is straight cringe, FR, FR. She bitches about her rich parents who obviously give her everything she wants, being complete assholes, and it's clear that she was the one who asked Carly to steal from her mom, and also is the woman Kendall was hanging out with earlier's daughter. Those rich parents who make $45,000 a year.
That's a lot of money in
Single
Kentucky.
salary.
Well, she
Actually, yeah,
seems
yeah.
to make a lot of money. Like that family.
Yeah,
seems
that
to be
family
rich was.
seems to be pretty
Yeah.
wealthy based off the house they go to.
Yeah.
But
The
still-
Ryan family is not like super rich, but
No.
But they can send their kids to private school,
yeah, true.
or kid. Their other kid never goes to school.
The other
apparently.
kid doesn't go to school.
yeah,
Yeah, and he's
they
like
have a
9,
housemaid.
so it's
9.
like
yeah.
So-
and
Should be
in
the
school.
other, the housekeeper's kid wasn't in school either. So maybe house before school. Maybe she homeschools both kids. Who knows?
yeah. Teaches him how to mop.
Blood. Poorly.
Yeah. Some chick with black lipstick comes into the bathroom, and we immediately know she's a drug dealer since, well, she's wearing black lipstick. Carly pulls out the money she stole from her mom, which turns out to be for drugs for Riley. So Riley says, "Fam, we high key finna glow up for real," or something equally stupid. Suddenly, the fire alarm goes off, and we see all the kids evacuating from the school. Oh, and Riley calls a fat girl a ham beast, since we've got to have a reason to not be upset when she's bludgeoned to death later.
Little bitch. Just waiting for her to die the whole movie.
She deserves it. And her bitch mom, too.
Yeah.
Outside, Riley and Carly spot a parent trying desperately to get into the school while cops escort her away. At the front gate, we see a huge group of parents yelling for their kids. We cut to Damon, who finishes his PSATs before everyone else, and when he opens the door to leave, he's greeted by a group of dead-eyed parents still waiting for their kids. As Damon leaves, he texts Carly that he aced the test, and once he unlocks his bike, we see that all the parents have disappeared since they presumably went into the classroom. Carly and the other kids
Did
start...
he like, was the door locked or something? Because why didn't he
guess.
just come in and start killing all the kids right then?
I mean, I think that's a PSAT thing, is they lock the door so you can't come in and out. They don't want people, they don't want interruptions messing with it since it's timed and stuff.
So Damon led to all those kids getting killed.
Yeah, because he got done early because he's an overachiever.
Yeah.
He's the real villain of this story.
Just goes to show you, man. Don't try.
Carly and the other kids start to get worried by how frantic and worried the parents outside the gate seem. And when one of the kids runs to his mom, she kills her son immediately with a car key. The parents all start to jump the fence, sending the kids and teachers into a panic, so everyone starts running. 28 Days Later style. In a football field, we see one parent suffocate his daughter with a trash bag, then a cop beating the shit out of a mom. He says, "I told you to fucking stay back," and then he just screams for some reason.
I told you to fucking stay back!
I'd ask if the cop was somehow the woman's dad, but I guess it's explained why he would just kill a random woman by the fact that he's a cop.
Jesus.
So
Meanwhile, we see several other parents trying to kill their kids while Carly and Riley sneak into Riley's car. A group of parents run at them, but the kids are surprised to find the parents have no interest in them whatsoever, but they only have bloodlust for their own brood. That was another like zombie moment where they're just crouched down and all the parents just walk by them. We see Damon head home on his bike while we hear sirens blaring all over town. He asks a neighbor where her daughter is, and she ominously says,
"She's inside."
Damon enters his house and spots his dad passed out drunk at like 3 p.m. It's nice to see that someone else besides Nick in a passing out chair for a change. I think it was the same house from Arsenal where
Yeah. It really did
guy's
look like
dad
that.
blew his brains off. He lives on the wrong side of the tracks. That's what it looks like. He's in the
Yeah.
poor part of town. Damon cleans up his dad's fifth of breakfast all over the kitchen floor and takes out the garbage, where he hears more sirens and seems to get worried. Back inside, we see that the TV has static buzzing on it, and his dad's no longer passed out, but instead is waiting to kick his son's ass. And based on Damon's reaction, this is nothing new. Damon's dad gives him a crazed look and then grabs a whiskey bottle, breaks it, and slashes his son across the arm with it. Damon is shocked by his dad cutting him open and makes a run for it. Makes fun of him for it. This is what you got, old man. He pushes the table at his dad, which causes him to Bobby Peru himself with the bottle. Damon's dad stabs himself in the neck and bleeds out, much to his son's horror. And even in his dying moments, Damon's dad continues to try and murder his son as we cut back and forth to the static on the TV again. But at least his dad died doing what he loved. I got another one.
Christ.
His dad died as he lived, drunk.
Oh my God.
Act 2. It's about time we had some conflict, wouldn't you say?
We cut to Kendall, who realizes her little angel stole her money. Next, we see her pull out a business card with the name Tanner Lee and the title Top Dog on it. What the fuck is with this? Like, every other name in this movie is just some douchey suburban name. You got Brent, Kendall, Jenna, Riley, Tanner, Dr. Oz. It's fucking stupid.
Surprised there wasn't like a Braden or Jaden or
That's why I
Caden.
put in the next line.
I was gonna say, yeah. Well, hold on, we're getting there. We see Kendall talking with Tanner, and they chat about his kids, Rayleigh, Blake, and Tabitha. No, actually, she just flirts with this douchebag while he stares at her tits and grabs her head for some reason. Only after he says, "You either die single or live long enough to see yourself become a cliche." What the fuck does that even mean?
I mean, I get that one.
I think this dude watched The Dark Knight and was like, "That's a great line. I'm gonna put my own twist on it."
I'm the comic book guy.
The comic book guy.
I'm gonna do Hellboy 13.
Oh, that's who that was. Was that Grant Morrison? It was this guy? Or,
Tanner?
Yeah. No.
No, I was talking about Brian Taylor.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. That's right. I think Grant Morrison's a comic book writer. Is that who the
I don't think it's the
cameo?
same Grant Morrison.
I don't think it's the same Grant Morrison. Yeah, no.
It's the guy from the TV show Happy.
She laments that her kids need her less and less, so she wants to get her old job back that she apparently had at this doofus's company before she left to have kids. Well, he laughs at her, and we see some other hot girl make a gesture at him through his office window. So it's obvious this guy's traded his heart on for Kendall and for a much, much hotter, newer version. He tells her she hasn't done whatever nondescript, which I'm guessing is probably graphic design, work in like 15 years, and it's not something you could just jump back into. He says she's just going crazy because of her kids and probably just, fuck off back to suburbia. We see her sobbing in her car before getting a call that her sister has finally gone into labor. Next, we see Carly and Riley on the road, where Carly notices that all the cop cars are rushing around the city. Riley says World War Z broke out at their school, which Riley finds hilarious, but Carly seems understandably freaked out.
I did just see a bunch of kids get murdered, and
Yeah.
she's just like, let's just get back to my house and smoke a joint. Stupid.
Yeah, she's totally cool. She ends up saying, "Vibe check, quit acting sus or you'll catch these hands for real." They get back to Riley's place, which is basically a mansion, and Riley lights up a joint immediately while Carly tries to find out what is going on from the TV. A news report explains that parents are killing their own children, while Riley spots a blender that was obviously used recently to make a margarita, and we get a fun little fake out of her sticking her hand in it for a second, but unfortunately her hand isn't chopped to pieces.
It's also really unbelievable that Riley knows how to use a TV. Kids don't watch TV. He doesn't fumble around with the controller or the remote. Just watch stuff on their phone.
Bam, on God, how do you turn this thing on?
Yeah. Should have thrown that in there.
This is so old, no cap. For real, for real. Riley, you acting out of pocket. That's all the hip language we know, children. Let's see. Okay.
This controller is high key sus. For real.
Bet.
Just throw a bet in there. Anyway.
All right, Riley heads upstairs to look for her mom since Margarita mixes her calling card. She finds her mom crying while holding a picture of Riley's dad, and we cut away after her mom says, "I spilled my drink." I feel bad for her. On the TV, Carly watches the Dr. Oz show. That's where I go. It's the best source of accurate information on TV. Where Dr. Douchebag says this may be a phenomenon called savaging, which is common in the animal kingdom. Savaging includes animal parents attacking or crushing newborn babies, and no one knows exactly why they do it, while the camera zooms in on Dr. Oz's mouth for some reason.
Because it's full of shit. They got him in the movie to say the dumbest stuff, just like in real life.
I couldn't tell if that was real footage or a shot for the movie.
Could
He's
have
in
been
the
a real
credits.
episode.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah.
Guessing they paid him to do it. He probably made more money than anybody else in this movie.
Sadly true, probably. He was 1.5 million of that 4 million.
We can only give Cage scale, but Dr. Oz, this is a big ask.
This is a big ask.
Guy's going to run for Congress one day.
Oh, Jesus. Carly hears a groan from upstairs, and we see Riley's mom strangling her daughter to the soothing sounds of smooth jazz.
Another one where it's like, what was why that music?
Why, Mr. Bill? Why?
I mean, that was like, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it could have been Mr. Bill, but
Probably just
I don't
ask
think
him on
Mr. Bill has that
Instagram.
range.
Touche.
Yeah. Been a bunch of fucking random Skrillex sounding music.
Riley sees this unfold and screams, since I'm guessing she's not a big Kenny G fan. Then, emulating her daughter, she says, "Bet she was living rent free in my head as the main character, so killing her vibe just hits different." We've officially become those old guys we used to make fun of.
No, we're hip.
We're hip.
We're
know the
fixing Brian Taylor's writing.
Yeah.
With more accurate
Updating it.
We
updating
updated
it.
it. Ah, touche. Okay.
My mom is such a penis. No cap, for real. Living rent free in your head is the main character. Bet. Vibe check.
Oh, fuck. At the hospital, Kendall spots an obviously real looking and totally not fake news report where some talking heads postulate that this could be a biological attack of some sort meant to destabilize or wipe out the population. One of the guests says the hardwired impulse for parents to implicitly protect their children at all costs has somehow switched to wanting to do everything in their power to ensure their children's death. Kendall watches all this in horror, but is interrupted by her sister showing up at the hospital to give birth. We quickly shoehorn in that Jeannie's boyfriend is not the baby's biological dad before we cut to Jeannie giving birth, which is presented to us in a true crank guy fashion, with Dan, the boyfriend, who's not the baby's dad, just in case you forget that, filming the birth with a wide-angle lens before turning the camera to himself and saying,
This thing is fucked up.
That felt
Imagine
very
this is-
crank.
crank. Yes.
I wonder if this is how the director actually did when his kids were born. Just autobiographical.
It's autobiographical.
Going around with roller skates and a camera. Going around the bed.
Sir, you can't be in here on skates. I gotta get these sick angles.
Yeah, but what if I did this transition?
This shit's fucked up.
Let me just play the sound effect real quick. I want
Anybody got
to
some-
introduce you
anybody
to
got
my
a-
friend, Mr. Bill.
Hey, bring that car battery and jumper cables in here.
Can we have her give birth on a racetrack, on a horse track? Those fucking movies. Kendall reassures her sister as she screams in agony that the second she sees her baby, the pain will disappear and all her feelings will turn to love. She gives birth while the color grade goes sickly green and everyone is overjoyed for like a second. Jeannie holds her baby, and within moments of becoming a mom, the heart monitor flips to static, because that's possible, and Jeannie tries to crush her own newborn child while the song "It Must Have Been Love" fires up on the soundtrack.
Like this whole I guess it makes this more horrifying, this whole idea of like parents wanting to kill their children, but like this was really shoehorned into the movie.
Yeah.
Just random exposition added in that first scene where they're talking about Jeannie could give birth any moment, and then it was all just so that we could see a mom try and crush her newborn baby
Yeah.
just because that's fucking horrifying. And I think that was the whole reason it's in the movie. It's just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, what's the most disturbing thing we could do? Oh, right. Have a new mom try and crush her baby.
Yeah. Kendall wrestles the baby away from her sister and also stops her from stabbing it with a scalpel. Kendall runs from the room with the baby as her sister tries desperately to kill it. And Dan, the boyfriend, not baby daddy, throws up for some reason. You know, just because
It's not it's not that uncommon. Even in normal births. It's pretty gross.
Did you throw up?
No. But I intentionally didn't look at what the hell was going on down there. 'Cause,
But you
I
didn't get in there with the
venture in
camera?
that region.
I saw enough of them cleaning up the aftermath that I was like glad I didn't. Yeah, miracles of life. Also, like they give her the baby to hold before they even cut the umbilical
I
cord,
know.
which they do not do. They cut the cord first because then that's how you make sure the baby's breathing, and then they hand it over. So yeah,
Well, they had that awesome shot of the umbilical cord being stretched and then making you think they're going to cut the baby, but they cut the cord.
yeah.
I will give you $50 if when you're having your next kid, you turn the camera to yourself and say, "This thing's fucked up."
They'll kick me out of the room. Shit like that.
Oh,
I just would love to see Amber's reaction to that.
She'll recreate mom and dad, but Nigel's the kid she's trying to kill.
Yeah.
We see Carly running home from her murdered friend's house, and she spots a neighbor happily taking practice swings with a bat he must have used to bash his kid's head in with. That was a weird scene.
Yeah.
What's
Damon he doing outside? Just,
Yeah, like the kid's already dead, and he's out there just
just taking some
taking
practice
some practice
swings.
swings on his way to get the mail. I guess I don't know. It's weird. Damon happens upon Carly, and they head to her house to try to get her little brother to safety before her mom and dad get home. We cut to Brant at his office, where I guess he fell asleep while watching porn. I mean, he must be working for the CIA again. That's the main takeaway I got from Evan's speech in Dying of the Light, right?
Those bukkake layabouts.
Values.
Watching porn. Forget what else he says.
Yeah. He wakes up from his routine after lunch porn coma to his cell phone ringing. He sees the calls from his wife and decides not to answer it. He tells his secretary that he's not taking any calls. So she asks, "What about your wife?" To which he says, "Oh, especially not," and chuckles like a dumbass.
I kind of wondered if he had a thing going on with his secretary
Sure,
of some sort, but who knows?
probably. It's pretty horrible. Most of the movie, so yeah.
Yeah. You soon learn how big of a piece of shit he is. Then he leans back in his chair, picks up a photo of his kids on his desk, and then screams at the top of his lungs while the audio cuts out.
I was
happened.
confused as to what exactly that was about, because you don't like want to murder your children until you're like within the vicinity of your children, but you have an overwhelming urge to get to your children. So like, is he just screaming because his suburban life is hell and he hates it? He just woke up and was like, "Oh, I still have these fucking kids."
I mean, yeah.
God damn it.
He just fell asleep watching porn in his office. This is his life.
Yeah.
He hasn't even been affected by the static yet. This is just
He's just a
normal work day.
nutcase.
Yeah. We see Kendall still at the hospital clutching her sister's newborn baby while trying to call her husband. I know who can help with this whole situation. My psychopath, weird as hell husband. That's her first thought. It's like, he'll help me.
Why is she calling him? Of all the people to call in that moment.
I don't fucking know.
Brent, he knows.
I think she was trying to call to make sure he hadn't gone back
Gone
to
home.
get their kids. Yeah. Or
I
something.
feel like while holding the newborn baby, that's weird.
I don't know.
It's just
Not
a
a
weird.
I think it's showing like she's got the maternal instinct to protect this baby because it's not her kid, maybe. Even though that's
Yeah.
not how instincts work. Like, you think it would just switch to her wanting to kill this kid too, because your instincts don't differentiate. But
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was. And that she was like there was like this glimmer of her wanting to protect her own kids, but also wanting to kill him, but knowing she couldn't be near him or something. And she was trying to make sure that Brent hadn't gone back to kill him because she knows that's what's going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah,
it felt like the movie was going to take a different turn, I thought, with how her character was being set up in these scenes. Like, I felt like she was going to do what she could to protect her kids, and then it just, nah.
Yeah, that was where I thought it was going to. I thought she was going to be like the hero, and she was going to stop Brent from trying to kill her kids.
Yeah.
And like somehow she isn't affected by this like everybody else, which we also get kind of a switch in the final like battle with the grandparents, spoilers, where she is like, she switches and she kind of like looks at her kid and was like, oh shit, this, I'm not supposed to be doing this. But then she just switches back into that mode anyway. She just is telling the grandma not to kill Brent. And for some reason it's not clicking that she shouldn't be killing her own kids as well.
I think she's trying to protect her husband because that doesn't matter. And then still wants to kill her kids. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Kendall's confronted by a nurse and a police officer who let her know her sister has been sedated, but they're going to need her to give them the baby until they know what the hell is going on. Kendall protests and says she needs to keep it, but after some prodding, she reluctantly gives them the baby while asking what is happening. They say they're not sure, and until they know more, they need to protect the children. We cut to a bunch of dads staring at their newborn children through a window as if they're getting ready for a murder buffet while some more fun old-timey music plays. We cut to Sunny busily mopping up something in the kitchen where she gets a call from Kendall, who asks if everything is all right at home. Sunny assures her everything is fine, but she's suspicious and asks about Joshua. Sunny says she's going to make him lunch and that he's hiding somewhere around here. Kendall asks if Brent has come home, and despite numerous reports telling parents to stay away from their kids for their own safety, she decides, fuck it, I'm going to head home to protect my kids. Damon and Carly show up at the house to save her little brother, but inside they find Sunny cleaning up her dead daughter's blood on the floor of the kitchen. I think you're going to need some OxyClean for that shit, or else it might stay in the floor.
It's going to like roll underneath the tile, you know, it gets under the stove. Then flies are going to get into it.
Good luck getting it out of the grout.
Yeah. OxyClean that shit.
It's a whole situation.
Carly frantically tries to get Sunny to leave, which is confusing to her since she needs to finish cleaning. Just being a really good housekeeper. Like, geez, don't get on her for, wanting to clean up the mess she made.
Doing my job. You paid me already.
Yeah.
I haven't even made Brent's dinner yet.
I got distracted.
Yeah.
Sunny yells about everyone acting so crazy today and heads outside to leave. Carly finds her brother hiding under his bed dressed as a superhero crying. He tells his sister something bad happened to Lisa, and she tries to convince him that they need to leave before mom and dad get home. Outside, we see Sunny leave and Brent pulls right in afterwards. We hear a dad, played by Bokeem Woodbine for some reason, which was really off-putting. And it took me a second to realize it was actually him. I was like, oh, hey, they found somebody that looks like him. And then they like get closer to him. And I'm like, oh, no, why? Why would he do this?
Like, are he in this movie now? No, guess not.
No, just
why is it off-putting?
Because it's so random. Like, I would never expect him to be in this movie. There's no other, they have...
Had to have been
Nick
a favor to
Blair.
Brian Taylor.
Yeah, everybody else are like small-time people other than Lance. But yeah, that just pulled me out of the movie for a minute. I was like, oh, fuck. I guess they brought him in because he's the only person that has anything intelligent to say. Like, he knows he should feel horrible for murdering his kid, but he's over the moon about it.
Yeah, it's kind of the only time that they really say like how the parent is feeling about what they did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also on the portable DVD player.
Damon is interrupted by Brent, who asks what the hell he's doing in his house. Brent calls out for his kids, and Josh runs for his dad while Carly stops him. Damon tells Brent that they need to talk, while Brent mocks him, saying,
"Oh, do we need to talk?"
And Damon says Damon can't be there. KG moments. Damon says there's no funny business going on, but Brent says he knows what's going on since he used to be young once too. But kids are different today since they've seen stuff like God damn it. But kids are different today since they've seen stuff like mouth to dildo, dildo to ass, and ass to ass on the internet.
It's just what Brent watched at lunch today.
This is exactly what he was watching before he passed out. Then he says, "Hi, Brent. Anal beads? Things I only saw in magazines." And assumes that must be the type of stuff Damon wants to get up to with his daughter. And Damon is like, "Big yikes, fam. I don't simp for that snag. Take several seats, old hat." All right. I'll stop. We're done. We're done with the Zoomer speech. Oh, yeah. Old head, not old hat. My bad.
Old hat's like 1920s.
Old hat's a 20s thing.
1920s, yeah.
I don't simp for that snack.
That might be your best writing you've ever done, Patrick.
Say less.
Say less.
For real.
For real. On God.
On God.
We're done acting out of pocket.
Say less.
It's getting really sussy up in here. Josh runs downstairs and calls for his dad, which prompts Brent to snap into murder mode. He turns like the Terminator to his son and bolts towards him while Skrillex has a seizure on the soundtrack. Damon tries to stop Brent, but Brent throws him against a shelf, then delivers the greatest slap in cinema history. He looks at his hand in the air with a satisfied grin, then angrily delivers a slap of God down upon Damon's head, bouncing it off the floor.
It's so fucking beautiful, man.
This and Arsenal. Like what is the significance of the?
I don't know, but I love it.
Weren't they? When was Arsenal? Was that like 2018?
It was 2017.
It was right around the same time.
He was just really into that at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had this idea for a slap I want to put into a movie.
It definitely felt like they just had him just do that or just do whatever he wanted, and that's what he did. Because he does the same look up, and
I love the look on his face when he's looking at his hand. It's like this like satisfied.
He's about to slap the shit out of this guy, and he's wanted to do it
for a very
months.
long time.
Because he's no, because he's a junior, not that
junior.
other thing.
And he knows what he wants. Anal beads and whatnot. Brent's kids look on horrified. And after that glorious slap knocked out Damon, Brent charges at them for a second before slipping on the Tonka truck we saw Carly throw earlier, knocking himself out in the process.
I mean, we should point out that Damon's not his kid. So he shouldn't have any desire to hurt Damon other than just wanting to actually hurt Damon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's been a long time coming.
Kid, you've been asking for this.
Because they've already established that parents will ignore everybody else to try and get to their kids. So he should have just shoved him to the side and still tried to kill his kids.
That's just how much he does
he
not
really
like
wanted
Damon.
to kill Damon.
I think like part of it is because Damon is like hindering his ability to get to his kids. Like Damon has stopped him. So he's like, I need to beat the shit out of this kid so that I can get to the other kids. But at the same time, it's just like, yeah.
But I think they show in other
Anal
parts
beads?
that like people don't, they don't try to kill the person that's stopping them from getting to their kids. They just try to get past them to get to their kids.
Yeah.
So if anything,
Brent's just
him
a fucking
stopping,
lunatic. Right?
yeah. Anything, him stopping to beat up Damon allows more time for his kids to get away. So you think he would have just ignored it and bowled over him, trying to get to him.
Yeah. His
just
reaction
really
to her
wants to
being
beat him up.
mildly upset about him buying a pool table shows this guy's got some fucking problems already.
Yeah. The kids run to the basement and lock the door rather than like go outside and find literally any place their parents don't frequent. But downstairs, they quickly spot a pool table that has been smashed into pieces. We see a caption on the screen that says 3 weeks ago. We see that Brent had tried to recapture some of his lost youth by buying himself a pool table for the basement. We watch him painstakingly put it together, make sure it's perfectly level while headbanging to some punk rock shadowboxing, etc. All the
Power
stuff that Nick Cage liked to do. But his fun is interrupted by his wife, who is shocked to see he bought a pool table without asking her.
He
Kendall
just sticks up his devil horns and she stops, starts singing an Elvis song to her.
Kendall scolds him about making a purchase like that when Christmas is right around the corner. You know, that he doesn't even like pool. Well, yeah, because it's billiards, bitch. Get it right.
Right.
And he gets really upset when she calls the basement his man cave. He says
It's not a man cave, Kendall. Jesus.
and explains that he wanted it to be a family room.
Get out of here. We got Michael Biehn and Charlie Sheen coming over.
We're gonna make some sweet poetry in motion, baby. Never cross the line.
That is poetry.
She says the
It's
whole
not a
house.
man cave, Kendall.
She says the whole house is a family room, and he gets pissed since he busts his ass 6 days a week to pay the mortgage, and the house is like an obstacle course. And one day, I'm gonna trip on one of Josh's toys and take a nosedive straight to the emergency room. He says they should have boundaries from the kids, and that maybe there needs to be a fucking grown-up zone and a fucking kid zone. Unfortunately, this is why God had to invent Dave and Buster's, so that people
You
like
guys-
him had a parent zone.
Get out of the house.
You
Play
guys
some
might
kids
not
games.
get this, but I got it. I get how he's
What?
feeling.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
No, I feel that way.
I felt it. I
I
felt
still
what he
feel
was
that
saying.
way.
And I don't even
Yes.
have teenagers.
yeah. It's going to get worse, man.
Nigel's like, I really responded to his anger in that scene.
Yeah,
I
get
really
it.
wanted to kill my kids, though.
She tries to explain that she's not the bad guy and doesn't want to be the one to shit on his dreams of having a family room, to which he says,
Do you think I want to be the one who has to build a fucking family room?
while bashing the table with a pool ball and screaming. He notices he messed up the leveling on the table, which he just spent hours trying to perfect, which causes him to fucking lose it. He says he'll take care of this for her and smashes the pool table to pieces with a sledgehammer while singing the Hokey Pokey, which honestly is absolutely spellbinding.
Oh, yeah, you put your right foot in, you take your right foot out, you do the hokey pokey, and you fucking work it all out.
This was all improv by Cage, by the way.
Yeah, I believe it.
The smashing was happening, but everything he says while the smashing is going on was improvised.
Yeah, it felt like it, especially since he was out of breath and he was struggling to get things out.
Yeah.
He smashes the shit out of the table while she's terrified on the stairs before he says, "You're right, honey. I hate pool." And says he's not a big fan of machine part sales either, which I guess is what he sells for a living.
6 days a week selling machine parts? I don't know. I guess
Yeah,
it's a sales job. You gotta.
Yeah.
It's just a
Gotta get that hustle.
I guess.
Yeah.
He cries, this isn't the life he had in mind as a young dude, and he was
Gonna grab the world by the balls and squeeze, boy!
Should have just got a pinball table. Set that up with some energy drinks. Be his own little oasis.
Maybe this is the aftermath. Willy's Wonderland is the aftermath of this.
That's why he goes mute. Nick then delivers an incredible monologue where he remembers being young.
Damn it, I remember that kid I used to be like it was 4 fucking minutes ago. My feet barely touched the ground back then. My kill ratio was 9 out of 10. It was 100% sex. And that guy, in a million years, could never have pictured this tired motherfucker he turned out to be.
Flat on his ass, fat, bald, cottage cheese, fucking ass, blue bonnet, butter, waistline with hair coming out of his ears and nose, and my salary went from $140,000 to $45,000. Then he asks his wife, "Does any of this make sense to you at all?" And she answers, "Of course it does." She says that she had dreams, but always knew there was this bigger thing coming of having a baby. She says the importance of creating life is what her whole life was building towards, but ultimately it was just something that happened and then it's just over. Brent reassures her and says he knows they're doing things right, but it's just hard to get his head around it since he used to be Brent and she used to be Kendall, but now they're just mom and dad. Hey, that's the name of the movie.
This one I feel like a lot of parents can identify with.
Yeah.
I feel like this whole movie is just about that. Like, you know.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, where did this scene come from?
Yeah.
This came out of a way better movie.
Yeah.
I feel like it's pretty well done, honestly. Like, it's surprising. I like don't want to give Brian Taylor credit, but like it's actually pretty brilliantly put together of like this little analogy of what it's like to be a parent and to have lost your youth and to have to deal with just being mom and dad at this point. Like you don't
lose your identity,
serve any other focus.
Because your sole purpose becomes being a parent. And I think a lot of parents lose their personal identity and then they hit this midlife crisis where they're trying to regain and recapture part of their youth.
Yep. And I think that's where a lot of divorces happen. Like when the kids hit an age where they no longer really need you as much, so you can kind of start going back to being the person you were before you had the kids. But that ultimately leads to some pretty fucked up stuff. You know, he was just trying to have a pool table. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal.
You got Captain Buzzkill over there. Bitch.
But still, he kind of just sort of like mildly overreacted just a little.
Just a little bit. We cut back to the present where we see Kendall racing home, but she's conflicted since she knows she might also be driven to kill her children. On the radio, she hears a news story that says they're under attack and a woman pushes her baby in its stroller in front of her van, which she barely misses. The radio then says, you're going to want to go to your children. Your natural instinct is to protect them, but do not go near your children at all.
I love that they kept up the chaos because they could have just thrown that out because they already showed kind of the chaos earlier. But like, she's just trying to drive home and somebody pushes a baby stroller
on roller skates, pushes her baby in front of her car.
Always a fucking roller skates.
She slammed. That's their thing, dude. That's his thing. That was his idea. That's my goddamn idea. It was the roller skates. She slams on her brakes and sits by the side of the road, but it's too late. We hear a buzzing noise, see that she's already in front of her home, and watch her expression change from worry to determination.
I think she might have actually been able to stop herself, but she got home too quickly.
Yeah. She saw her house and was like, oh, they're right there.
That's the moment she's flipped into murder mode. But like you, I thought she was going to be the person who saved them, and like somehow her instinct would cut through the chatter of this static, or it would happen halfway through. Like she would start out being the murder parent, but then turn back. Or
you know, if you wrote it well enough, she could still be wanting to kill her kids, but also wanting to stop Brent from doing it. So like have this. Like she's trying to do it, but also not trying to do it at the same time and actually trying to stop Brent instead. You know, set up more that maybe he's an abusive dad or something. I don't know. You know,
he seems like a loving, fun dad, but then also not at the same time.
Yeah.
Like his reaction to Josh throwing the soccer ball at his head. It's just like, oh, I'm you. And then like we see this scene coming up where he says like, if you go near my Trans Am again, I'll fucking kill you. And he laughs for a second. Then he snaps into like serious mode. And the kid is like, oh, fuck, dad might hit me again. Is the feeling I got.
Act 3. Time to resolve some shit.
Kendall opens the door only to find her husband and some random kid passed out on her floor, which must have been very confusing. Who is this kid? It's like he must have, because like Brent slammed his head on the floor and he's passed out for hours at this point. Later on, like we see that he's passed out for hours.
Another one of those shitty script writing cliches.
Yeah,
got to remove a character, just give him brain damage, knock him out for a few hours,
just concuss him.
One little smack to the head, he's out. But you know that was an epic smack from heaven. You know,
yeah, it was.
Brent wakes up and Kendall says, "You're home early." And he says, "So are you," before they lock eyes, look at each other menacingly. And Brent says, "They're in the basement." So that confirms that Kendall is also on the murder kick. Kendall calls to the kids who decided to stay in the basement for some fucking reason, like goddamn idiots, rather than leave after their dad knocked himself out. Maybe he was only out for a second. Maybe this happens shortly after. Yeah. Joshua immediately responds to his mom, much to Carly's terror, and we cut to a weird Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance-esque, weirdly framed split screen of Kendall on the other side of the door. It was like very... this guy just has a very specific way he likes to make films.
Mm-hmm.
This like split screen stuff is just so amateur looking. Especially like in Spirit of Vengeance, it was just ridiculous in that scene with the devil talking on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happens a few times here too. Not as off-putting in this case, but I know why he did it because we need to see both reactions on both sides of the door. But it just felt like it was something he came up with after the fact and was just like, well, I have After Effects. Let's just put it both in.
I have After Effects.
Kendall pretends to be happy the kids are all right, and Carly admits to her that she stole her money from her purse. Kendall says it's okay and to unbolt the door, but Carly says they're not coming out and that she and her dad need to leave. Brent is ever so slightly less subtle. He slams on the door and says,
Your motherfucking mother should open the door! And motherfuckers, you're going to open this motherfucking door!
Fucking amazing. Then he starts sobbing, collapses against the door while saying,
Carly!
Not so helpful.
Judgy!
It's just really weird delivery. Fucking amazing, though.
Should have gone with, open it, open it, open it, open it, open it, open it.
Amazing. Kendall says that's not so helpful. Or the same guy who wrote, I'm dead, jackass.
They're scraping at the door.
Yeah, she's actually scraping at the door with the reciprocating saw here in a second. She gets a reciprocating saw from a toolbox, and he tells Kendall it won't cut through the door, and she says, the hell it won't. Yeah. It's a sawzall. That means it saws all.
Like, how the hell is this guy able to hand restore a Trans Am, and he owns a Sawzall, but
doesn't know how to cut.
Doesn't know that it can cut through a door.
Can't seem to cut through that thin as hell door, which she stabs through with a knife later on. Which he is able to cut through the door later on.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was like, that's not going to cut through that
Anybody
door. And
who's
then 5
used a
minutes
Sawzall,
later,
it would totally cut through a door. It's fine.
she starts sawing at the door, which doesn't work. So Brent says, fuck this. I'm tired of messing around with this shit. You want to get things done? Huh? I'll get things done, while grabbing a gun safe from under his bed. Or under their bed, I guess. Kendall starts to make traction sawing into the door while the kids scream in terror. And Brent opens the gun safe only to find his gun is missing, and we hear 2 shots. We see Kendall screaming like a banshee. Or like Eddie King. She's got a real weird way of screaming in that scene.
Yeah.
And we see Josh is holding the still smoking gun. She's screaming like Eddie King, complaining about some fucking hangers. And we see that she's been hit in the arm. She asks Brent if he has an explanation as to why she's been shot, since she didn't even know he had a gun, while bitching to him about how dangerous guns are. And the whole time, Nick does some step aerobics for some reason.
You do realize that 1 in 5 children and adolescents in...
It's like such a hilariously weird scene. Then we see a fun little PSA about gun safety in America, in the form of Josh discovering the gun case at some point in the past, figuring out the code is his own birthday, him loading the gun, and then doing some taxi driver you talking to me shtick in the mirror.
Except he's talking about bringing it to school and shooting a bully.
Yeah, that tracks. America. Back in the present, Kendall says she has an idea. They bandage up her wound while Cage does some fun little improv counting, and the whole scene just felt like he was just improvising everything, wrapping her arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So over the top weird. Downstairs, Carly assures her brother. Downstairs, Carly assures her brother that whatever is happening will pass, and they're safe in the basement since there's no way anybody can get in there through that paper-thin door. Upstairs, Kendall and Brooke hook the stove gas line up to a hose, which they then feed to a small window that leads to the basement. There's a window in the basement? Okay, all right. So why didn't they going out the window?
Yeah.
This whole basement thing is just because the plot needs to happen.
Yeah.
Everything about it is like, why did they go down there and stay down there after their dad knocked himself out? Why did they go there in the first place when the fucking front door was right next to the basement door? Just run outside.
Horror movie trope.
Yeah. Outside, we see that Sunny left her daughter's dead body in the garbage can, and Kendall responds to seeing someone else's dead kid like she's a robot before duct taping the gas line through the window and burying it with dirt. Which, wouldn't she have responded in horror at seeing someone else's dead kid? Isn't that kind of what we're supposed to be setting up here? Or she just like, oh, it's understandable. Of course, Sunny killed her kid.
Yeah, maybe once that switch happens, they don't have any empathy for any kids
But by that rationale, wouldn't those parents have killed Carly and Riley when they were in the parking lot?
No, because they don't want to kill anybody but their own. They only want to kill their own kids. But I think Nigel's right. I think once the switch happens, there's no empathy for anybody else.
Okay, that makes sense. By the way, the gunshot on her arm just didn't seem to affect her.
Doesn't bother her ever.
Where the bullet's still in it. They just left the bullet in.
Yeah, and the bullet's still in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like digging. Anyways, I don't think outside gunshots work, but
it's another horror movie trope.
Yeah.
Non-fatal injuries are trivial. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't have any lasting repercussions.
Brush it right off. Brent and Kendall yell through the wall to each other about turning on the gas, but I guess the kids don't hear any of that. Or see that the gas line is being fed through a window, or have Josh escape through the little window, even though I'm sure he could fit. Or use the sledgehammer Brent destroyed the pool table with to bust out the window. Whatever. Never mind.
Why do that when there's a perfectly good crawl space that shows up later?
Yes. Could have crawled out at any point. Why did they also crawl through the crawl space back into the house? Couldn't they have figured out a different way to get out of the house? There is an outtake somewhere in that system, I would assume. Though, why would it be big enough for 2 people to fit through?
Yeah, I don't know about you guys.
Suburban house.
The ducts in my house are big enough to fit a person in.
No. Anyways, Carly heads to the top of the stairs where she sees that her mom is duct taping the holes in the door and the space under the door, and she starts to seem to figure out what's happening. Carly puts her finger through one of the holes, and her mom somehow stabs the knife all the way through the wood door, despite there only being a bullet-size opening. So it must be a really thin door. I mean, if she sticks the knife all the way through. So couldn't they just
smash it down?
By the way, the whole threat of the gun is just gone.
I know.
Yeah,
after this.
they fire 2 shots and that's it.
Yeah.
It's just gone. We never see it. We never talk about it. Never comes up again. When they go upstairs,
they really could have used it.
Take the gun.
Yeah.
Brent and Kendall have a fun conversation about how long the gas will take to cause the kids to pass out, and they chuckle thinking about them coughing and throwing up, and they lovingly hold hands. Good times.
Hey, at least this is good for their marriage.
It is. The bonding moment. Darkness falls, and we see that the gas is starting to take effect since Josh is coughing, and both he and Carly's eyes are swollen. So Carly makes a plan to get them out of the basement. She finds an air duct that leads upstairs, then some matches, which, where were the matches? They were in a...
They're on top of the water heater.
Oh, maybe To light a
To
pilot
light
light?
the pilot light? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, their dad's cheap, so it's probably that water heater's probably going out, so he probably has to keep lighting the pilot every once in a while.
Yeah.
I'm not going to replace the water heater. I need a pool table.
I need a pool table. Damn it.
Anyway, she uses these matches to create a trap at the top of the stairs by setting them to ignite if someone opens the door. Brent and Kendall get super excited when they hear Josh coughing, and they decide it's time to saw off the lock on the door. Again, so the thread of the gun is just completely gone at this point. And like now the Sawzall works just fine. Convenience, a lot of convenience. Mm-hmm. Carly and Josh make their way into the air duct, which leads to the attic, which I'm not really sure how they would do that. Like
Right.
free solo it all the way up. While Kendall grabs the tenderizer Sun Yi used to kill Lisa earlier. That thing's getting a lot of use, man. Brent finishes with the door, opens it, and the matches ignite, sending him flying backwards from a huge fireball, which I would call an over-the-top gratuitous slow-mo shot. But after seeing Arsenal, seems pretty tame in comparison. I actually thought they did a pretty great job with that shot.
Yeah.
That was a cool shot.
Yeah.
I'm usually not a big fan of those types of shots, but it looked great.
Yeah, that was a good shot.
We cut to black and after some time see Kendall on the floor covered in debris. She wakes up and immediately reaches for the meat tenderizer. Like, this is another spot where I thought maybe she was going to snap back to reality. Mm-hmm. Got knocked out or something, but no, just still right back to murder mode as soon as she wakes up. She finds that Brent has been blown completely through a wall, which I think is into the kitchen. I wasn't sure because he's got like, I think it's like a pantry or something.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like,
yeah, because he's got the Fruit Loops on his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. As we see later, aside from being covered in Fruit Loops, he seems perfectly fine after being blown by an explosion through a wall.
But also, that fireball was pretty small. Mm-hmm. For what should have been the entire basement engulfed and should have blown the whole house up or lit everything on fire.
That was what I thought was like, wouldn't that just blow up the whole house? Like,
plus, they never turned the gas off, so it would have just been pumping more gas.
They do cut the gas off.
Oh, okay.
He cuts it off after they hear like Josh being sick, and before he opens the door, you do see him switch it. So
okay, but still, there's no fire whatsoever.
Yeah.
After the entire
everything
basement
downstairs
erupts.
seems okay.
Yeah.
It's a little singed, but mostly all right. Carly crawls down out of the attic. Her mom hears her, and when they lock eyes, Kendall sprints at her like she's the T-1000. Carly runs
that
to
guy from Matchstick Men.
Yeah, the Matchstick Men, that dude. Carly runs to a bedroom and locks the door, but of course mom bursts through that in seconds flat. We see a quick cutaway of Carly as a child trying to put on lipstick in front of a mirror, and we see Kendall supportively show her how to put it on properly after Carly says she was scared that she did something wrong. Kendall says, "You never have to be afraid of me," before we cut back to the present where Kendall has busted through the door and is ready to smash her daughter's head in. Nice juxtaposition on that. Mm-hmm. She runs to her daughter, smashes the mirror that we saw in the flashback with the meat tenderizer, and Carly bites her mom on the bullet wound from earlier. Pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Biting a bullet wound. But, again,
effective.
Totally fine. Outside, we see that Damon has woken up and comes to his girlfriend's aid. This is the first of many times where he gets knocked out and gets back up. He grabs Kendall before she can bludgeon her daughter to death, and together Carly and Damon lock Kendall in a closet. We have a fun, not forced at all, bit of levity with Carly saying, "It's usually not this bad," to Damon, since this is the first time he's meeting her charming parents. They just laugh and laugh. And Damon says he thought his parents getting a divorce was the hugest tragedy of his life, but ironically, it doubled his chances of survival. Josh makes his way into the room and is baffled why these two idiots are laughing and on the verge of making out. So he asks, "Where's mom?" And on cue, Kendall opens the door and stabs Damon through the cheek with a coat hanger.
Fucking hangers.
Fucking hangers. Carly tries to help Damon, which allows her mom to get out, and she again grabs the meat mallet. She tries to hit her daughter, but again, Damon is caught in the middle and is struck in the face, causing him to fall over the banister and down to the first floor, striking the railing below. So he's back out of the picture, but totally fine later on. Would have busted like his entire rib cage.
Or his neck, the way he bounced off the chair.
Yeah. That was a
And
cool
not to
shot,
mention he got
too.
hit in the
Yeah, that
head
was a
first
sweet shot.
before he fell off the stairs on top of his other head wound.
Slap of God was way more damaging than a meat tenderizer.
Meat tenderizer and a fall off the second floor.
Carly grabs Josh and they head downstairs while Mom continues to give chase. Downstairs, we see Brent is awake and he fires up the Sawzall. In a beautifully cagey delivery, he says,
Sawzall means it saws all.
It's our quote of the film.
Fuck yeah.
Brent and Kendall corner the kids in the kitchen while Carly apologizes for being a bitch earlier and repeats her mom's statement about how they're a family and they love each other, even though they can't stand each other. You give a shit even when, but Kendall cuts her off by saying, whatever, which is what her daughter said in response earlier. So she still remembers, like, I mean, everything is still there. She remembers feeling like she loved her children, but it's just been switched, and she's like, yeah, it just felt fucking awesome. Felt great.
That's what
like
Bokeem
Bokeem
was says. Yeah.
Bokeem.
Bokeem
McBain.
Whitman.
Whip it.
Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and wouldn't you know it, Brent's parents are waiting outside for that family dinner they all had planned. This is my favorite wrinkle. Turns out his parents have the same wanton need to murder Brent, just like he has to murder his kids. I really enjoyed that. Like, they showed up to kill him.
That's great.
And for dinner. Yeah. Brent decides to put the murder of his own children on hold for a second and answers the door. He starts to tell them hey, we gotta cancel tonight. I'm sorry. But then his mom sprays him in the eyes with mace immediately. And his dad, played by the great Lance Henriksen, just starts going to town on him with a knife. Fucking awesome. He stabs Brent in the stomach a couple times, and Brent stumbles to the living room, shocked that his own father would stab him. Then he says,
Oh, holy shit! Dad! You killed me! You fucking killed me!
and his dad calls him a crybaby since he missed anything vital, but he's gonna get him now.
That was
Gonna get you now.
hilarious.
Lance Henriksen's fucking treasure, man.
Mm-hmm.
Pumpkinhead, you ever watch Pumpkinhead back in the day? I watched that fucking movie on
Pumpkinhead?
repeat. And
Yes.
when I was a little kid when it came out. I think I was 7 or 8, but I loved that movie so much. And it was only later that I really got into aliens, but Pumpkinhead was the movie I really loved him in. Josh intervenes and asks his grandpa not to hurt his dad anymore, to which grandpa says, hey, there's my little piss and vinegar, before Brent snaps back into murder mode and storms off after his son. This whole scene is just fucking great.
Yeah.
Nick makes some fun monster noises trying to grab at Josh while grandpa tries to stab Brent. Just wacky fun. Kendall stops her mother-in-law from grabbing a knife while Brent chases his son around the house, making a kind of barking noise at him the whole time.
Yeah. I was going to say, there we go. There's some more barking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kendall screams, no, you don't want to kill Brent. Brent is your son. Yet she still has the same murderous rage for her own children. I guess she just can't see the duality anymore. It's just something completely broken in their brains, whatever this is. We'll contemplate this afterwards in the questions, but is it aliens? Is it another government? Is it
It's the Chinese.
Some
ISIS.
ISIS.
They mentioned ISIS earlier in the movie.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the kids like maybe ISIS dropped a bomb on the school or something.
Yeah. No, she said if my ISIS could drop a bomb on the school, my mom still wouldn't show up.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Grandma says, as if you ever gave a shit about him. You were never good enough for him. You're a whore. Kendall's not even a real name.
Speaking the
I
truth.
love this actress. It's like one little moment with her. She was amazing.
She murdered it.
She's only in this like one. I think those are her only lines right there. Out in the garage, Brent chases Josh, who jumps into Dad's childhood. Oh, I mean his Trans Am. Where Brent swings at him with a pickaxe, but before he can make contact, we have another family bonding flashback. We see Brent and Josh outside enjoying a summer day where Brent drinks a beer and Josh licks a rocket pop. Brent says, well, you fucked up, son, but what if I told you I fucked up even worse? He tells his son that the Firebird belonged to his dad, the one who's trying to kill him right now, and that he stole the car as a teenager, took his girlfriend on a little spin, and totaled the motherfucker, presumably because his girlfriend was playing patty cake on his face with her tits. Brent tells his son he was sure his dad was going to crush his skull, but instead he sold him the car because his dad gets his head crushed here in a second, and told him if he ever wanted to drive during his senior year, he'd better learn how to fix it, which he did. Then he tells Josh, who is 9, if you'll recall, that the car was a pussy magnet. And then he licks his beer like he's giving it some sexy cage cunnilingus.
I can lick a beer for hours.
Oh, Dad.
Josh apologizes for leaving a dead animal in his dad's car, and Brent jokingly tells him, if you ever touch that car again, I'll fucking kill you. Then they laugh for a second before Brent goes back to being serious and Josh gets all sorts of uncomfortable. I love that. That kid was great in that moment where he like snaps back up. Oh shit, he's serious. We cut back to Brent destroying the previously mentioned pussy magnet with an axe while his son screams inside. Josh starts the car since I guess the keys were left in it, triggering that "Do you remember the 21st night of September" song to fire up on the stereo. I guess that song was supposed to signify like him remembering being a kid and driving that car around, but I don't know. It was tying back into that scene we just saw. Grandpa shows up again and starts stabbing Brent in the legs while Brent screams like his ball just got blown off. It's like the same scream from Prisoners of the Ghostland. What is that? I mean, I guess I would scream like that too if I was getting stabbed in the legs. That wasn't a small knife either. That's a big knife.
Kitchen knife. Oh, it was a hunting knife? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
right. Kendall had the kitchen knife earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Grandpa puts the knife to Brent's heart, and Brent says, "Get your claws off me, you goddamn filthy dinosaur." As you do. That was a sentence that I never thought I'd ever hear in my life. Grandpa says he fought in wars, and what the fuck has Brent ever done? Before stabbing his son again, which causes him to hit the gas pedal, sending the car backwards towards the garage door. Inside, Kendall pepper sprays her mother-in-law and bashes her upside the head with the meat tenderizer. I guess that, that knocked her out, but she comes back again. It just happens over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kendall again gives chase to her daughter and manages to bash Carly a good one, knocking her to the ground, just like what just happened. 14th different character to have that happen in this movie. But before she can finish the job, her mother-in-law grabs her from behind while sporting the craziest eyes imaginable. If you notice that, like she just looks insane in that moment. I'm guessing I haven't really like I didn't really dig into her background, but I'm guessing she's in a lot of horror movies because she just seems perfect for these types of movies. That crazy look in her eyes. They wrestle for a bit before Brent busts through the garage door in the Trans Am and runs over his mom. We see a fun slow-mo of his mom flying over the car before we speed up back to normal, and Brent slams into a parked car across the street, which sends his dad flying, and Grandpa smashes his head on the hood of the car somehow, just completely just obliterated his head.
Well, he's old. His skull is soft.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Smashing a pumpkin.
His pumpkin head burst all over the front of the hood. The slow-mo shots in this movie are like perfectly executed, whereas the Arsenal ones were just stupid. Yeah. Really did nothing for the movie whatsoever. Yeah. Josh and Kendall both look on in shock before Kendall laughs like she just farted in a bathtub. Hey, maybe that's where the inspiration came for that Mr. Bill song from earlier. She's just kind of like, that's the way I laugh when I fart in the bathtub. I don't know about you guys. Carly comes to and is clearly over this bullshit of her mom nonstop trying to kill her. Like, he wakes up, she's like, oh, fucking just still. Can we stop already? No cap, I'm totally over this. Damon suddenly comes to as well and reappears for the 18th time from inside and bashes Kendall in the face with a shovel, knocking her out. He's just conveniently there when they need him and not there when they don't need him. We cut to black, and next we see Kendall and Brent tied to the same pole in the basement that they had their little heart-to-heart about just being mom and dad at this point in their lives. They wake up only to find their kids and Damon watching them from across the room. They both act as if they're back to normal, with Kendall saying, thank God the kids are all right, and Brent calling Josh, buddy. His brother. He's calling out for his brother.
Yeah.
Marshall. But the kids aren't buying it. Kendall tries to talk them into untying them, and Brent asks Josh to go grab the Sawzall and cut us loose. But they go back into murderous rage pretty quickly after that. We see one of the pool balls from Brent's destroyed table roll towards him, which prompts him to chuckle and then just start sobbing. So, like, are they back to normal at this point? Are they not? Kind of ambiguous.
Yep.
Josh and Carly tell their parents they love them, and Kendall says, don't you both know that we love you both more than anything in the whole world? And then Brent says, but sometimes we just want to. And then we cut to the credits, you know, which are accompanied by the sound of two robots having sex, I think. The end.
The guy just figured out the significance of that pool ball rolling. I think it was like the floor's uneven, so that's why he was chuckling, because the table was not uneven. It was the floor of the basement was uneven. That's why the ball's rolling on it. So he was just laughing and sobbing because like it's just fucking a joke. He wrecked the table because it wasn't even his fault. I think.
Shoddy foundation. Yeah. It's sad that it took Nicolas Cage so many years to return to the horror genre after Vampire's Kiss, because clearly he's amazing at it. I mean, he did do Wicker Man in that gap. But ignore that and just look at his most recent films like Renfield, Color Out of Space, Mandy, and of course, Mom and Dad. Horror movies seem to bring out the best of Nick, even when he's playing a mute animatronic killing janitor in Willy's Wonderland. But they also serve as great inspiration for toy manufacturers. I mean, look at some of the awesome horror toys available on entertainmentearth.com. They're beautiful, creepy, and in some cases look so realistic and lifelike that they just might come to life in the night and kill you in your sleep. I mean that in a good way. They look really realistic. Like, too realistic.
Entertainment Earth has everything you could want if you're into comics, pop culture, collectibles, and everything in between. And you know you're in good hands because they've been at it for over 25 years. Pick up some seriously killer toys at entertainmentearth.com and make sure to enter our coupon code CAGEPOD to get an extra 10% off all in-stock items.
We have a couple of questions before we move on.
I have a ton of questions here. We don't necessarily need to go over all of them, but why is Brent pissed off about Sun Yi leaving him dinner in the fridge?
I think it's just because he doesn't want her there. He doesn't want to pay for her services. So it's just one more reminder that he's paying all this money.
Yeah,
that he doesn't want to be paying.
I had that question too. I don't know why. Other than he's like, oh great, I come home to leftovers. That's awesome.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
And jack off all day at my office and then come home to cold food in the fridge. What was in that box that Josh had? Like, what animal was that? Why is it kept ambiguous? Is it just because they didn't have the money for the effect?
Probably. They just use sound effects. It's like a little mewing kitten and then the flies to show that it's dead and the kid's reaction.
He's trying to fucking feed a dying animal Fruit Loops.
Everyone loves Frosted Flakes. They're great.
Why did Kendall try to call Brent at the hospital? Sort of talked about that in the moment. Like, out of all the people to call right at that moment where you just rescued your sister's newborn baby from her murdering her own child, and you're like hiding in some other fucking office to get away from her. Why would you call your lunatic weirdo husband? Just somebody familiar, somebody who might know what to do in that situation?
That's why I thought it was like she was going to try and stop him from killing their kids and be the hero of it. Because it's like she's trying to call him to warn him that something's going on with parents and their kids, so to not go home and to stay away from him.
Well, at that point, he was still at the office, so might have actually worked.
Yeah,
but
he didn't answer.
But he would have been like, I have to be here 6 days a week, so fuck this. Going home anyway.
Going home.
So presumably, the kids get home at 3, and then Brent pulls in at like 5-ish is what I was assuming. So, but they don't seem like they're there for 2 hours. I don't know. Yeah. The timeline on this thing is kind of wonky a little bit. What is Kendall? She's a housewife.
She's a housewife, yeah.
But
she just goes and does like workouts.
They have a housekeeper, but she's a housewife. So she doesn't have a job, but there's a housekeeper. That's really weird. How would Brent know the kids are in the basement after he knocked himself out? Like he wakes up and he's like, they're in the basement. How would he know that they're still down there? Why would they still be down there? That's the biggest one. Mm-hmm. Why didn't the kids run out the front door rather than go in the basement?
Because then the movie wouldn't.
Yeah.
The movie wouldn't happen.
Wouldn't exist.
Yeah. I feel like that's like 90% of the time when we're answering these questions on Coppola Questions. It's like, so the movie can happen.
Yeah. Because if they took off and hid somewhere else, then that's the end of the movie. The parents would never be able to find them.
Exactly. Like that would be my thought process if I was one of those kids. Be like, let's go anywhere where mom and dad wouldn't think to look. Mm-hmm. But no, just in the basement. Or they have no way of getting out except back through the house where the parents are.
Mm-hmm.
Or the window.
Or the window. But yeah, they don't seem to even know that exists, even though mom just pushed a hose through it. Mm-hmm. Why didn't Kendall and Brent just kick the basement door down?
Or use a sledgehammer or a battering ram or anything.
Yeah.
I think because the implied threat of the gun, once she got shot, they didn't want to get shot again, so they decided to go with plan B, which is gas.
Yeah. Which leads me to another question of what happened to the gun. Why is the gun just gone after that?
So the movie can happen.
All right. Why
presumably it was blown up in the explosion.
Okay, all right. That makes sense. Why would it be Josh, the one who like shoots her? Josh, okay, I'm guessing that Josh grabbed the gun because he says he needs his backpack. So when he grabs his backpack, he gets the gun to help protect them. But then why is Josh the one shooting them? Why not Carly? I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's like, it's just fucked up to see a 9-year-old firing a gun.
That's the social commentary.
Yeah,
Fucked
I guess
up,
so.
Or American Hero.
Yeah.
We'll let our audience decide.
We sort of asked this in the moment too, but like, why couldn't the window in the basement have been used as an escape route or a way for the parents to get in? Like, they could have gotten to the kids somehow through that basement window, or the kids could have gotten out.
So the movie can happen.
Yeah. Everything revolving around the basement.
Yeah.
We sort of also talked about this in the moment, but why didn't the shock of seeing someone else's dead kid affect Kendall? She's just like, there's a thing. But like a dead body would, I would think, would freak you out, even if you had that like switch happen. But maybe it's like you said, they just don't care about it.
I think because they're already trying to murder their own kids. So what's somebody else's dead kid on your property mean, you know?
I guess.
Maybe she never liked that kid anyway.
Kid was a real asshole. Stuck her tongue out at my husband all the time. This is more just kind of like these next couple are philosophical, I guess. If any guesses as to what actually was the cause of all of this?
I thought it was going to be something through cell phones. Like that was why the teacher was freaked out about cell phones so much early on. And that was foreshadowing like a signal being sent by everyone's phones. So everybody's obsessed with phones these days and stuff. But it seems like it's just wideband radiation going out to any speaker or broadcast or screen or anything like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it matters. It's one of the things I wish that the movie had sort of at least explained it, but also it doesn't really matter. It's like going back to the trope of zombie movies, like Night of the Living Dead. It's like radiation from a comet or something, but who cares? Like the dead come back to life. That's part of why it's so scary. The birds attack in the birds for no reason that they can discern. It just happens. Yeah. So
kind of Maximum Overdrive, which this movie had some hallmarks of, was the same thing. It was a comet. It was like they found like a spaceship behind the comet. I think, if I remember right. I haven't seen that movie in a while. There's another movie, I forget, that has this kind of same idea. It's a horror movie that's NC-17. It's only on Shudder. That is the same concept, but it's with base instincts. So like if there's like an old man who's just ogling kids, he ends up acting on that base instinct to like rape the kids and stuff. And that's how everything goes off the rails.
The Happening?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
The movie The Happening.
Yeah, the movie The Happening.
Trees did it, man.
No.
What? No.
See, that's the risk you have when you explain why something is happening.
Yeah.
It could be something like that.
Yeah, it could be something really stupid. Yeah.
And then people are like, wow, that's fucking awful.
Yeah. So just don't explain it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think it's fine to leave it ambiguous. You really don't need to know. And you could potentially, not that I think that Brian Taylor would do it, but you could spin this off into a sequel of some sort.
Yeah, they made like 7 Purge movies.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it just happens again, which it leads me to another question is like, what happens after this if they go back to normal? Like, is all forgiven for the parents who killed their kids? Or do they go to jail?
Can they live with themselves?
Could they live with themselves? Yeah. And like, yeah. Just imagine the mess of the next day. Just like, holy shit. Wow. All right. It makes me wonder how long this would go on if this just became a permanent part of life, like we would never have children ever again. That would be the end of humanity. It'd be like Children of Men, but more fucked up. And my last question is, wouldn't the instinct be more to just not care about your kids rather than kill them? Like your instinct is to protect them at all costs and take care of them, but like wouldn't the actual like flip of that be to just not care about them anymore?
Yeah, I think so.
Not want to protect them, not want to be around them.
Yeah, because it's like leaving kids to their own devices, they're gonna die. They'll kill themselves in a bunch of different ways. So that the parental instinct is more about just making sure that they don't do that. But yeah, whatever. It's a nice flip on. And there is something to be said when she talked about, you know, as soon as a kid is born, everything is replaced by love, and it becomes like an instinctual drive to protect it, which is real. And it's really bizarre, but to have that happen, but it's something that does. So I think that's just the concept of the movie started with, well, what if there was an instinctual opposite of that, which is like that switch does, at least it happened to me, that switch gets flipped as soon as you see your baby. And what if it's the opposite? It flips another switch, which is just to kill your kid instead of love your kid.
Yeah. I thought it was a cool concept. I think it's a great idea.
My main one was like, is it over? Like the description of the movie got me thinking, because it said on like Amazon where I watched it that they have to survive 24 hours where parents want to kill their kids. So I'm like, was it just a 24-hour thing, or is this something that this is just how life is, or does it go away and come back randomly, which we already kind of talked about? Or like, are they still, it's ambiguous at the end of the movie, but are they still under the influence of it right now, or does Brent just really want to kill his kids? Which, you know, it's kind of questionable the whole time when you're watching the movie. Like, he might actually want to kill his kids.
Both are very plausible.
Yeah. So I think that was, I think that's the other thing that I liked about the movie is like, every parent kind of knows that, like, oh my God, sometimes you just really want to strangle them, but like that instinct makes sure you don't do it. Yeah. Which I also think is why that instinct exists, because you can.
Which we've seen examples in real life of like the mom who just like pushed her kid in the car into a lake and and these types of like they said, savaging is actually a thing in nature. Not to give Dr. Oz any credit, but savaging is a real thing, and pigs do it all the time with the babies, with the piglets.
A lot of times it's stress.
I think it also has to do with overpopulation.
Yeah, which again I think is the stress portion of it too. It's like you can't, if animals can't, if they're in a stressful situation, which a lot of pigs are, like they can't take care of their own offspring. They need to free themselves of that burden and stuff. Like it happens for rodents to it too. They eat their own kids if they're in a stressful situation and stuff, because but you can make more. but if you die, the species dies out, kind of thing. That's how I look at it. So it's I think this movie also kind of just asks, like, you know, every parent kind of thinks that, like, sometimes I just want to kill your kid, you know, but it's like, do you really? Because this is what it would look like if that's really what you really want to think. Like, you don't really want to do that. You just get really mad at him, and there's nothing you can do about it, really, short of being a terrible parent. But it's just fun to explore that. What if, like, you know, nothing's really stopping you. You could just kill your kids. You know, and what if we're in a world where that happened?
There really is something that happens, a switch that happens. I've heard that from every parent I've ever talked to, you know, about these more deep concepts. Like, the second I saw the kid, it was like switch just happened.
It's so surreal. It's bizarre. That scene was really disturbing because of that. Like that.
The baby.
Yeah, the baby being born, because it's like everything she's saying is true. And what if that didn't happen? What if it was the extreme opposite, and how horrifying that would be?
Yeah.
You know,
I really thought of you like, because I had been planning on doing this movie this whole season, and then I had already like figured out what movies we were going to do this season before you said that you were having another baby. And then when I watched this, I was like, oh fuck, man, we can't talk about this. Like he just had a baby, he's just had this experience, and then he's just gonna have another baby, right? We're gonna watch this movie right before he has another baby. I'm like, fuck, okay, maybe we need to pivot. But then I
think if the movie had been less silly and taken it more seriously, you know, it would have been a lot
that was why I
decided
it was okay, because it's like, it's really presented as a black comedy. It's not like you can't really take anything serious in this movie.
Yeah.
But still, I had that moment of like, oh fuck, what do we do now? Let's switch this movie out.
What's the final tally?
All right. Nigel, do you want to hit us up with the old Cage curse tracker? Been a minute since we've had a somewhat heavy one. This one felt a little heavy, but maybe not.
Oh, it is up there. In the list
He said motherfuckers and like 4 times in the same sentence at one point.
Yeah, I was working overtime on some of those outbursts, like having to rewind it and make sure I got everything right.
Motherfucker, mother.
Dildo to mouth and dildo and ass to ass and all that. I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, there was a total of 40 curses that I counted in this, which puts it up there. I mean, the only movies that are higher are Unbearable Weight for some reason, which is 52. Bad Lieutenant was 60. Weatherman was also 40. Vampire's Kiss at 47 and Deadfall at 44. But other than that, it's in that top. What is that? 5, 6? It's up there, and I think maybe that was due to him just being improv-y. Like they just let him say a lot of that. It feels like when he goes off the rails, he really goes off the rails in these scenes.
I got the sense that he improv'd a lot in this movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had a copy of the movie that didn't have any kind of like commentary or special features of any kind. So I would have liked to have seen some of that stuff to kind of see the process of this film.
There's a part when he's talking about when he's like, there's a fucking kid zone and an adult zone or whatever he says, and he goes, but he does it in like the Peter Lowe voice. Like you can tell he's reverting back to now we know is his own father's way of talking. Yeah. So he was like channeling his dad whenever he goes back to like, you know, bad dad mode, I guess. So he did it in Color Out of Space as well. Mm-hmm. So
I wonder how August Coppola felt about that.
Maybe that's why he enjoyed doing this movie. It was like sort of cathartic for his own feelings with his own parenthood and his own dad and all of that. It's sort of like, in a weird way, I think everybody can relate to it. So
yes, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, so we had 1 use of hell, 1 damn, 3 goddams, only 3 shits, but 5 asses, and 3 Jesus Christ. One's in there, 1 use of God, and 23 fucks, which again is on the higher end. It's only been beaten out by Deadfall, Weatherman, Bad Lieutenant, Unbearable Weight, which again was bizarre that he swore that much in that, but yeah.
I mean, he was playing Nick Cage, so it makes sense. Nick Cage seems to really love the word fuck.
And Nikki, too. Nikki loves the word fuck.
I'm curious if we will top Bad Lieutenant's 41 fucks in any of these movies that we get to from here on out. That'd be something to see.
Me too.
So what's our grand total?
672.
Oh man, I really wonder where we're going to end up breaking down every single one of those curses by the end, like when we finish this show, if we ever finish this show.
I don't think we ever
We're going to finish it, but will Cage finish before we're all dead?
Yeah.
Because that guy's going to go forever.
Oh, yeah, he's not stopping.
Runtime, this was the shortest movie we've ever done. Aside from Dark, but that's not a movie.
That's not a movie.
This was 86 minutes, which was 2 minutes shorter than Willy's Wonderland. So shortest movie we've ever done, which was pretty crazy. We've done 38 movies at this point. 86 minutes is the shortest. This didn't feel like, it felt like the pacing was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I felt like each act was very kind of succinct for what it was trying to do each time around. So yeah, it was well. I mean, you probably could have added more character development in this movie. I feel like some of the characters were a little thin, but for the most part, still fleshed out enough to where I'm like, you know, there's so many like horror movie trope characters that you didn't really need to flesh them out. You know?
Yeah.
Because for like, I've seen this character 100 times. Vapid bitch, into drugs, rich kid. We don't need any more.
Oh, Black Hero.
Riley is completely the what?
Black Hero.
Yeah, Damon. Yeah, I felt like Damon got enough screen time to where I kind of understood his, you know, smart kid, obviously in shitty situation in his own life. Definitely has an instinct to save Carly because he's experienced bullshit with his own parents, obviously. So yeah, I felt like he was well developed. But anyways, 86 minutes. Pretty crazy. Nudity. We had 2 breasts. They are seen like 400 times in the movie, but it is the same set each time out. So we can only count 2 breasts. It's kind of funny. You could leave nudity up on the screen the entire movie, but as long as it's the same set, then it's like, it's like Lula in Wild at Heart. She's naked like constantly throughout the whole movie, but it's the same breasts the whole time. But anyways, that brings our grand total up to 64 over our 38 films. About 2 breasts per film.
It'd be funny if we end up with an even or odd number.
An odd number.
There's been a lot of like, just here's one, which is weird. You never see that in reality. Like, you're going to see one, you're probably going to see the other. But in the movies, we've had many just single breasts so far. State and Country Tracker, they left this ambiguous. I think it was supposed to be America's suburbs, but it was filmed in Kentucky. And since they never mention it in the film, I just went with Kentucky. Which I feel like we're kind of getting into this gray area with a lot of these movies where it's sort of like ambiguous as to where they are. But because they're filmed there and they feel like they're a part of that place, and I feel like we can count it.
It's in the credits. It is
in the credits. But I don't think it's mentioned at any point throughout the film, which I think was intentional. Anywhere USA, really. But that brings our grand total up to 22 total states. We've been checking off quite a few, just random ones this season. From Kansas, Montana, Colorado, Wyoming. Most of those were in Old Way, but many flyovers are getting counted this season, thankfully, which I didn't know if we were going to get to some of those.
Yeah.
We got South Dakota in the next episode, so.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Budget versus gross. This is a $4 million budget. Made $286,313.
Ouch.
Which I got to wonder, like, how was it released? It's got to be just it was in a small run.
Yeah.
But it was released in the UK as well. Released in the States, released in the UK. You'd think it would make more than that. Cage, Selma Blair. So that brings our grand total up to $1.076.7 billion budget with $2.384 billion gross, which is going to go up substantially in our next film. Bafflingly, National Treasure 2 made over $400 million.
Yep.
Which is crazy money. As far as our top grossing films, this is not, close to the bottom because we've had a lot of these movies like, Dying in the Light, Doggy Dog, Prisoners of the Ghostland, movies that just did not make any money. And I don't think they were intended to make any money. And this was like in the midst of Cage's kind of direct-to-video run, and it may have only gotten a release because it got pretty good reviews, 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. So maybe that's why it made anything.
I think it's probably made it back on streaming at this point. Like I noticed, it's on Hulu right now, so some deal was penned to pay for it there. It's probably bounced around the different streaming services. So
yeah,
$4 million is not that hard to make back. I doubt it had any marketing either. So
yeah, we've kind of talked about it that this was sort of the beginning of his ascent back. It was like he got pretty good critical reviews from this movie, and that kind of led to Mandy. XYZ was involved in this film and Mandy, and I think that's where Elijah Wood had seen him in Mom and Dad, was like, we could get Cage for Mandy, that'd be amazing. For those who don't know, Elijah Wood was part of the team behind Mandy and had worked with Cage on The Trust. Anyways, ratings, this was the 21st R rated, so it did get a rating because it did come out in theaters. So I gotta wonder how many theaters it came out in. Feels like it would have done better. Should have done better. I think nowadays it would have come out a little wider, but maybe not. I thought The Old Way was going to come out wide, but it didn't. Anyways, that leads us over to the Cage kill tracker.
All right. We got some kills on this one. He got 2 kills. He is responsible for both of his parents' deaths. So that brings
Kind of
us
ironic, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brings us up to 181 kills. And then we don't know what the fate of him and Kendall is. So
I mean, his dad did say he was going to get him, and maybe he did stab him to the point where he would
where he bled
eventually
out.
die. But we don't see him die.
But we don't know. Yeah, so 0 deaths in this one. So still sitting at 11.
So, what did you think? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
That leads us over to the most important question. Vince, where does Mom and Dad from 2017 rate on your Cageometer?
All right. I'm going to give this one a 7. It was way better than I thought it was going to be. We picked apart some of the plot issues, especially in the third act with the kids going into the basement and staying down there. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty well told story. Entertaining, funny as hell. Was not expecting it to be as funny as it was. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. I'm just going to take what I got. So I'll give the film a 7 out of 7.
I do think it was intentional.
I hope so. But you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
I mean, it's listed as a black comedy, so.
Yeah, but is that what they were really going for originally?
Yeah, who knows? Based on the Crank guy's background, yes, I do think it was intentionally comedy.
True. So I think it was really good. I thought it was, well, it wasn't really good. It was good. It was better than I thought it was going to be. So I'll give it a 7. As far as Cage, same. I'm going to give him a 7. I think had he not been so over the top in the film, I do not think it would have been as enjoyable. So obviously this is no Pig caliber acting, but I think it fit, his caginess fit the tone of the movie, fit the tone of that character, and made me enjoy the film a lot more. Especially because sometimes the other actors were just given very paper thin performances, and then he'd come in, do something crazy, and it kind of brought me back to enjoying the movie. Yeah, so I'll give him a 7. You know, I think it's fair for both movie and film. 7. Not great, but not as awful as I was expecting it to be. Based off of the gentleman that helmed the writing and directing. So 7s.
Yeah, didn't we? Where did we settle on Spirit of Vengeance? Like a 1.3 or something like that?
Oh, it was low. Yeah. I think it's our worst rated film.
No, Arsenal. So. Arsenal now.
Oh, yeah.
Rated film.
Well, yeah. Up until Arsenal, it was.
Was Arsenal 1s all across the board?
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
And I think Cage got more than a 1. I think he got like a 2 something.
Yeah. I think we were generous to him. Yeah.
All right, Nigel, where does Mom and Dad rate on your Cageometer?
I don't think I liked it as much as you guys did. I thought it was an okay movie. I liked the premise a lot. Surprisingly, I didn't think that the subject matter was what kind of turned me off from it. It was sort of everything else, the execution of it. Even looking at it like a black comedy, I thought it was pretty stupid. And like from a technical side of things, we talked about it. The music's kind of not great. It looks like it's shot on a DSLR, and the editing is really questionable in some points, and there's some parts, and there's some weird shots that get interjected in there that just kind of feel amateurish. So like, and then the characters are paper thin. They don't act how normal people would act, which I guess is a horror trope, but I don't really like horror movies that much unless there's something different, like Mandy or Colorado Space. Even I liked that one, but yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10. I don't think it's a good movie, but I don't think it's a terrible movie. I did enjoy a couple of scenes a lot more than the rest of the movie. Like we mentioned, the whole basement scene flashback with the pool table, it felt like it's lifted out of a better movie. I thought I really enjoyed that part of it. And that kind of got to the crux of one of the themes that they were playing at, is that midlife crisis and that feeling of losing your identity. Once you have kids, you just become mom and dad, and that's all it is. And it's it's at odds with how we are as humans. We want to feel like individuals and feel like our lives matter and that we do something. And part of that is your kids. And it's like Kendall says, like, you know, we do everything for you guys. You guys are our lives. And that's why it hurts when she's like, well, I'm sorry you don't have any life. You know, I have my own friends now. I'm sorry you don't have a life. Because when you're a parent, you do just basically sacrifice yourself to some extent for that. And your kids won't know it until they're older and they have their own kids that they realize that. So yeah, I thought that it was surprisingly smart of an idea and themes coming from the Crank guy. So I don't want to be too hard on him as much as I hated Spirit of Vengeance, but I mean, this is a better movie. And this is, I think it's just his directing choices don't jive well with me, but, and the writing could have been better. Like you said, the dialogue for pretty much all the kid characters and the adults trying to act like kids is not that great.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a black comedy horror movie, I think it's pretty good. But yeah, I just gave it a 5, kind of middle of the road.
Yeah.
Or Cage's performance did elevate it a bit. I'll give him a 7 out of 10 as well. Like we said, this sort of brought him out of that funk of being post Ghost Spirit of Ghost Rider up to Mom and Dad. He was kind of on that low point for a lot of these movies, and I think I can see why that one reviewer said, take all of it. You know, I can't exactly agree with her, but take all of these performances of Nick Cage in the past and combine them together. And it's still not as, whatever she said, it still doesn't equate to what he reaches in this movie. But I can see how it could remind people what Nick Cage can be capable of when he's completely unhinged and just becomes really fun to watch when he sort of just lets it go and swings for the fences and just over the top ridiculousness. So yeah, I can see why it brought him out of that funk, brought kind of the audience remembered what he was like and got him some more jobs in the future where he could kind of get out of his low period in life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's a little more over the top in some of the scenes than the movie deserves, but also again, don't think too much about it. It's a black comedy that's designed to be kind of taken not seriously, so having him in there is enjoyable to watch, and a lot of the crazy stuff that he does. And like you said, this has some of the cagiest moments of any of the movies that we've seen because he was allowed to just do it, and it's like, why not do it in this movie? It warrants it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the fact that he had fun came through in the performance. You could see he's enjoying himself.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that the smashing the pool, his lines while he's smashing the pool table was all improv, but I can see that now. But it felt really real. It felt heartfelt as he was doing it. You could have felt that breakdown.
The tail end, I think, was part of the script, but like when he's doing the hokey pokey and all that shit.
Yeah, but it really sells that snap. He's just like that. That was it. This was something that he was looking forward to, kind of holding on to that old self, trying to recapture that youth, and then his wife kind of crushes it, and he overreacts to it. But it really sells that. Oh my God, this guy's kind of a psycho. Like I think what he's saying, everybody kind of associates with and empathizes with, but the way that he reacts is not. It's not how everybody would, but it's also a very Cagean reaction. So they got some good stuff out of him for this movie, and it fits the character.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I kind of split the difference on my Cageometer. I gave the movie a 6. I really have a hard time giving credit to the Spirit of Vengeance guy, but like he came up with a really great concept. He did write this movie, wrote and directed the movie. The thing I don't like about his movies is like the choices in the edit, like the split screens, the weird shots, the sped up stuff, the color grade, the grain. I feel like he kind of makes an ugly movie, and it feels amateur. The music, the Mr. Bill music was fucking terrible. That song that Riley is listening to in the class is just like, I'm not even gonna say what. Like the lyrics are just like, what the fuck? Like, why did you? I don't know. Anyways, there's like one black character in this whole movie, and you see these white kids in suburbia listening to whatever the fuck that was. It just felt weird. I felt like, a lot of the characters were not super well developed, but I didn't feel like it hurt it just because, like I said, like they're horror tropes. We've seen these characters a million times. I thought the editing, aside from the stupid crank guy choices, was fairly well put together. I felt like it was streamed together nicely. The one cut of Cage looking up at his hand and then smacking down with, like, they felt like two very different shots, but somehow it worked beautifully together. Jumping over to Cage, I feel like the movie works because of how cagey he is, but at the same time, it does not fit like a normal suburban house dad at all. And like, it's so over the top at points that I had to give him a 6 just because I waffled between a 7 and a 6 because his performance is kind of like Vampire's Kiss, where like his performance and I guess more Deadfall, because like Deadfall, the movie was terrible, but his crazy over the top fucking character and the way that he performed it, and like we talked about on our Deadfall episode, he came up with pretty much every nuance of that character. That's what made the movie interesting and kept you going along with it. And maybe I'm being harsh with a 6, but I felt like he was a little too cagey at moments, especially at the beginning when he was supposed to be just a dad. But, while we were talking about it, we kind of discussed maybe he's already being affected by this, but like his like, or whatever with the little kid at the beginning, and his whole thing with like, respect your mom or she'll kill you.
Yeah.
And then like the thing with the soccer ball bouncing off his head where he stared at the kid like he was going to murder him for a second, which I guess tracks because he's like a suburban dad and he wants to be out of this life. But at the same time, he still loves his kids. So he snaps back into reality of like, I don't know. But we were just foreshadowing what was going to happen later on. The pool table thing was just fucking insane, but totally makes sense. Like you said, he just wanted something for himself and he couldn't even have that. So he just fucking loses it and way overreacts. But I could see that actually happening. I could see myself doing something like that if I was in a similar situation where I just really wanted something of my own, but my nagging wife wouldn't let me have it. It would never happen in my relationship, but
Is she in the house? Run.
But yeah, overall, I thought the movie was solid. I can't give it like higher marks just because it does have its flaws, but I think it is a great kind of return to form and a bright spot in the midst of all of those direct-to-video things. But Joe and The Trust were also really nice bright spots in there. I'm wondering how many more of these we're going to run across where it's like expected the movie to be terrible, but then great. I mean, this movie had everything going against it, like direct-to-video Cage, the fucking crank guy wrote and directed it. It's a horror movie that's 86 minutes long. You look at that runtime and you're like, oh, this is gonna be bad. There's gonna be no character development. There's gonna be nothing stringing this thing together, but it works. It works really well. I love the third act so much, especially when Lance Henriksen shows up.
It's a highlight for sure.
It just makes me laugh so much. The movie in general is hilarious, and I think that's really, if you just come at it as like this is a fucking hilarious dark comedy, you'll love the hell out of this thing. But as a horror movie, I don't know if it fully hits all the check boxes.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
No, I'm already on the rag anyway.
I can't hear you.
Hashtag inappropriate talk before.
Hashtag.
Son, you take my advice. Don't ever have kids. Oh. Oops. I mean, one of these days, I'm going to trip over one of Josh's toys and take a nosedive straight to the emergency room.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that maybe we need to have boundaries. I'm saying that maybe there needs to be a fucking grown-up zone and a fucking kid zone.
Okay, mister. I'll leave the dinner in the fridge.
Fuck you. Yeah, okay, that's great.
You think I want to be the one to piss all over your family room?
Do you think I want to be the one who has to build a fucking family room? Oh, yeah! You put your right foot in, you take your right foot out, you do the hokey pokey, and you fucking work it all out!
Oh, stop.
How you do the hokey pokey, and you turn yourself around.
No, Mom, we're not coming out, okay? You have to leave. You need to leave the house, you and Dad.
Your motherfucking mother should open the door! And motherfuckers, you're going to open this motherfucking door! Ah! Oh, holy shit! Dad! You killed me! You fucking killed me!
Nah, bullshit. I missed your gut, crybaby. I'm gonna get you now.
In the summer, I had that bad boy cherried out from the ground up. Now, you talk about a pussy magnet.
Dad.
Chick magnet. Huh? Yeah. Get your claws off me, you goddamn filthy dinosaur! Like father, like son, right? But if you ever touch that car again, I'll fucking kill you.
Mr. Ryan, we need to talk, sir.
Oh, do we need to talk? Yeah, believe it or not, I used to be young once, too. And actually, not all that long ago, by the way. And I think about how things were in my day.
Mr. Ryan.
But now, the world you kids are living in, the things you've seen on the internet, mouth to dildo, dildo to ass to ass, hi, Brent, anal beads. Things I only saw in magazines.
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Cage. In our next episode, we'll finally be tackling the 2007 sequel to the beloved 2004 film National Treasure, Book of Secrets. Benjamin Franklin Gates, Riley Poole, and Abigail Chase ride again, this time to clear the Gates family name after a mysterious man comes forward with information that implicates the Gates family as co-conspirators in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. But since this is a National Treasure film, it all leads to a massive treasure buried in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Has to. It's literally the same movie, copy and pasted, with the events like slightly moved around and some of the locations changed. Most of the locations are the same. Anyways, make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
Sawzall means it saws all. Saws all.
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
You talk about a pussy magnet.
Dad.
Chick magnet. Ha!